All right, true believers. I better not yell because Gabriel, our good friend Gabriel, is actually here in my house, just in the other room. Let me know if you do hear it.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Howdy, gentlemen. Oh, look at your mug. Great. Dude, nice. Okay, here we go. We're all sporting.
Yeah, while we have everybody get in here, wait for the crew to join the live chat, let's show off our spider totems.
Yeah, shall we?
We're all rocking something.
There we go. We're doing it, fellers.
Web shooting.
Sweet.
So,
the magic, the mudra.
The mudra. I never would have thought of the fact that Spider-Man is doing a mudra every time.
He's doing a mudra every time, yep.
So amazing.
Lots of magical symbolism here.
Yes.
What's up, everybody in the chat? We got Joe, Eric, Loco. Loco, thanks for all the cool stuff you post and all the appreciation posts you do for other podcasters. That's really cool. And our friend Rachel and Alan Marcus. We got on the Rockfin side, Brian Stavely. I know he's got a lot to say about Mandela Effect, and that's definitely something that is a major factor in this one. Sue, hello. Tommy, good to see everybody. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, we're talking about Spider-Man, No Way Home. I don't know about you guys, but this is actually my favorite superhero. Not my favorite superhero movie necessarily, but for sure my favorite superhero. Obviously, I got the ink to prove it.
He was definitely my jam when I was a kid. Like the nerdy kid, like always identified with Spider-Man probably more than a lot of them until I discovered X-Men. And then I was like, that's my jam. Weirdos.
Yep. Yeah, I've been into Spider-Man ever since I was a wee one. And growing up to learn capoeira has only intensified that factor by 1,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
we got Wayne McCroy in the chat who just dropped a Spider-Man No Way Home video.
Nice.
Yeah, what's up, Wayne?
Hey, buddy.
Love your work.
Seriously, I was just listening to it. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
This
good to see you, Wayne.
So much about transhumanism that just like with a critical eye and logic, it just is so silly and dumb. But there's a lot of overarching themes we're going to break into here. So maybe before we start getting into screenshots, we can name a few of those. I think the biggest major overarching theme that Gabe and I deciphered out of this is that in this movie, the Spider-Men fight 5 villains. And so you may have caught it in the title, but we called this Fixing the Multivirus because it's all about the multiverse. That's the plot line. And so what does that mean? What do we mean by that? We'll get there, but in particular, the 5 villains that he fights, and we'll cover them off as we go, but they seem to represent the different scariants of the cooties thing, the airborne, the injectables, all the different ways that this multivirus can be approached. So there's a lot here. I mean, that's one theme. What else do you think is a major one to maybe touch on before we start cruising here?
One thing that I'm excited to bring forward is the concept of actual historical characters being woven into the fictional realm through Marvel. And this is absolutely the best film to bring that concept forward because my first revelation on this possible perspective was that Carl Jung had a spirit guide or a daemon or a guardian angel, whatever phrase people prefer to use to describe it. And its name was Philemon. And so I've done a few videos on my channel about this. I don't go in depth and I don't harp on it very much. It's like just a side note concept that could be developed out into a very large project. But I believe Peter Parker and Spider-Man correspond with Carl Jung and Philemon. And there are other characters in the Marvel Universe that are one-to-one correspondences to real people from history, and in some cases seem to be maybe conglomerates and melding together of certain characters. But we'll get into that. We'll bring some of that forward. So that's a theme I'm excited to share today.
Cool. I am down with that, man, because you've seen that throughout all the MCU, and that was a staple of the comics, man. One of the coolest tricks that I ever saw in comics was Marvel's. It was done by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross. If anybody's ever seen that, he is the reason why. What's his name? Professor X. What's the actor's name? I can't think of his name. Captain Picard.
I can't think of his name other than that. Picard.
Yeah. Anyway, he used him as a model for Professor X, because Star Trek Next Generation was really big at the time. And
Patrick Stewart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
But he used him as the model. If anybody hasn't seen Alex Ross's art, he's done. He was the one that did all the art at the end of the first Tobey Maguire movies. There's the Spider-Man. It's realistic, kind of almost Saturday Evening Post style.
Yes.
Paintings of Spider-Man. That's Alex Ross, and because he was so good at Marvel's, that's why they basically lifted so much of his stuff from the comics. But anyway, like he always wove in real humans, real people. Like you always knew that Captain Picard was going to play Professor X because of that. Like it just made sense. And a bunch of different people too. Like he kind of influenced the MCU before the MCU was really a thing. Yeah. But real characters like the amalgamation of Tony Stark and
I think Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk, right. But his dad, Hugh, was essentially Hugh Hefner, or not Hugh Hefner. Like all the
Howard Hughes.
Howard Hughes, thank you. God dang.
Nice.
I'm terrible with names, but
no, that's great.
You get warmed
Howard
up.
Hughes. Yeah.
Yep. So, in some of what I see here is literally weaving of fiction and reality together, taking little parts of true factual events and layering them in with what is just the realm of fiction in a very complicated web, to say the least. And ultimately, another theme that Chance and I have been seeing is associative disorder.
Dissociative identity disorder.
That's the phrase. That's the phrase.
Theme, and it's actually not just a major theme in this movie, but it is across Marvel right now.
Yes.
And so let me weave something into this, Gabriel.
Yeah, please.
You've probably all witnessed in the last couple of years the popularity. This will get Wayne's hackles. The popularity of identification as autistic. There are numerous teenagers and young adults on Twitter or Instagram with a bio, like a profile written out that has the hashtag actually autistic, like it's a badge of honor. And a theme, or that's a major theme for Wayne, of course, but the next step from that would be alter personalities, really, in terms of autism being programmable humans. And this has everything to do with the question of Jung, because Jung warned about society moving in the direction of a one-dimensional man, where instead of the integration of the shadow is eliminated. The shadow is the body, the shadow is the unconscious, all these things that make us human. Creativity actually comes from the shadow. The ability to heal comes from interfacing with the shadow. So important.
Yes.
And Okay, so to get to DID, the trend on TikTok now is that kids are watching these videos that are huge on TikTok about dissociative identity disorder and borderline personality disorder, and now self-diagnosing and self-identifying as DID sufferers.
Really? That's a thing?
It's a thing right
Yes.
now. It's popular on TikTok to say that
Good
you've got
God.
dissociative identity disorder and alters. And it's a big thing in Marvel right now. Like Chris said in the chat, Moon Knight is coming to Disney Plus. That's entirely
I was
about
gonna
it.
bring that up.
In the series Iron Fist, there's a dissociative identity disorder character, a major character.
Yeah, they are role modeling that it is cool to have these things, and it is, and I've seen it too. You know, a lot of my daughter's friends are self-diagnosing, and to self-diagnose is being construed as self-empowerment. You know, so to put yourself in some sort of minority label is somehow giving them their identity.
Okay, so speaking on identity, the third
Yeah.
theme before we break into this, that is an overarching theme that we want to pay attention to, is the fiction, you know, that you brought up, weaving fiction
Yes.
into reality,
Yes.
the public and the private side of law, and the spiritual element of public and private. This movie, if it's probably the biggest theme in the whole movie, actually, because the plot revolves around Peter Parker's identity being revealed to the world and his attempts to fix that. The word fix is also really important to this movie. We'll get into that too.
Yeah.
The fix.
Mm-hmm.
They use that phrase so many times. And you know, Chance, you and I, we did our InnerVerse episode on public and private the same week that this came out. And then it was after we did our show that I went and I watched this movie in the theaters, and I was absolutely amazed at how pertinent that public and private is to the theme of this particular Spider-Man storyline. It is quite something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So maybe we want to jump into some of the screenshots that we have to share. Or Gordy, do you have any other big overarching themes that you noticed in the film?
I'll be hitting a few. I'm just pulling up my notes here too. But I think, you know, because I mean, we're spiders, this is what we do. We kind of share this one mind. This will be an interesting test because the 3 Spider-Men. This will be fun.
Yep.
Yeah. And I actually noticed that on a Jungian level, let me pull this up right here. You see the 3, this I didn't do on purpose, but I grabbed 3 images of the 3 Spider-Men in this movie. And you have the main character who's all in light, the Tom Holland Spider-Man, the original one to this universe. And then you have the Andrew Garfield, who his plot line has to do with him being tormented by trauma and consumed by his shadow and enraged. So he's all in dark. And then Tobey Maguire, the older Spider-Man, he has integrated his shadow. He's gone through all the things and more that they have. And his face is shown half lit, half in shadow. I didn't pick those on purpose, but when I grabbed all those, I had to look to find already cut out pictures. So it was kind of interesting that those were the only 3 I could find readily. And they ended up having that dynamic.
Yes.
Very
interesting.
Yes.
Interesting too. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Interesting too that the Andrew Garfield, you know, Chance and I mentioned, you know, that I finally like Andrew Garfield. Like he's the best actor in this movie, I thought. But he's the one that they've kind of like wanted to erase from canon. You know, like he's the one that always got kind of the shit end of the stick for reviews, and it wasn't great. That Rhino was absolutely terrible. Just even in concept, having a robot Rhino.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah.
I think oh, hold on. You're off, Chance. You're muted.
That Rhino is a ultimate comic Spider-Man version of Rhino, so I kind of like it, but it's okay if you don't.
I
I'm
think they,
old school, man. I'm Silver Age.
yeah, I think they joke about it in the film. He like
that's
kind
right.
of starts to self-deprecate about, I had a stupid rhino. And they're like,
Yeah.
no, man, you're amazing. Don't be so hard on yourself.
And they say he's amazing because his films are called Amazing Spider-Man.
Exactly. Nice.
Right.
One thing, Chance, that when you brought that forward with that graphic and the three different three different lightings of the three different personas, that inspired in me to think of there are three types of moons. There is a full moon, which is that well lit Spider-Man 1. There is a phasing moon, which would be Spider-Man 2, Maguire, and then there's the new moon, which is the Garfield
The dark.
with all the shadow. And also, those correspond as well with salt, mercury, and sulfur, the triune. And sulfur means burnt. So the sulfur, I'm thinking, would be Garfield.
His suit is even torn up. Look,
Yes.
burns and scorches and claw marks.
And the spider almost doesn't look like a spider on his chest. It almost looks like a bat or something winged.
Oh, bats, huh? Like that Cooties vector. We'll talk
Right.
about that.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, I'm thinking Garfield, or what we will probably call Spider number 3, is
We ought to just name them by their actor name. That's the easiest way to do it.
It is, yeah. So I'm thinking he's sulfur. I'm thinking Maguire is more mercury. He's transitional, the phasing moons, swinging both ways, having two faces, and then the central one, who's completely lit up, I think of him as salt. So we have the salt, mercury, and sulfur embodied by those three characters.
Okay, I think maybe we should get into some of the images because we got a lot there.
Nice.
Oh, Wayne brought up the owl archetype. That does make an appearance in here, at least in one place. Okay, so I have grabbed for us screenshots that I found relevant throughout the film. I think I've got 40 or 50. We'll do our best to get through them. Gabe has got some imagery too. So if you ever want to switch to one that you've got queued up, just let me know. And we're going to start the beginning of the film. This is kind of going to entail a play-by-play of the plot. I don't think it's important if you haven't seen the movie, honestly, that you go pause this and see it, unless you really want to. It's a superhero movie. They win in the end, right? A lot of the classic tropes are there. So you're not missing out if you don't go see it. It's not a terrible movie. It's entertaining. It's got a lot of good humor, but also just so much programming, especially for transhumanism. Anyway, this first image is at the beginning of the film. This is MJ, and she is wearing a Joan of Arc shirt, and her name in this universe, as a parallel of alternate Mary Janes, she's actually Michelle Jones instead of Mary Jane. And it's very intentional that she's wearing a Joan of Arc shirt. But why that is, I maybe don't know, other than to weave it back to this idea of confusing fiction with reality. What is called a euheremism is where you apply mythological traits to a story about a historical figure and thus confuse the whole issue. And in a way, although we all know that superhero movies are fiction, if we are able to correlate characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to people like Crowley, which we will later, then maybe this is kind of a wink and a nod, or just a synchromistic expression from the imagination of all these people that created the movie, not realizing it, that characters like Crowley are just as fictional in terms of their biography as these superhero stories. Something like that. But what do you think about the Joan of Arc t-shirt, or this opening scene where she's just along with the rest of New York finding out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man because it's getting blasted on the news?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'm just now thinking of as we're talking about it is that Joan of Arc had some sort of daemon, a spiritual source that she was tapped into.
You're right.
And in
The
her,
Philemon.
she had her own personal Philemon, so to say. In her biography, it says that once she had accomplished her mission in the field of battle and was, had given up the sacred sword, she had passed the sword on to her brothers. She lost all of her conquering spirit, and so it's just something to think about, that Joan of Arc had that relationship with the spiritual side. She was compelled from the unseen world, and she ended up giving up that ability or that connection. And our MJ, she ends up at the end when she's about to lose her memory. Not to jump too far ahead, but when she's going to give up her memory, she tells Peter, "I love you," and stops him from saying it back to her, because it will be a trigger in her next lifetime when she loses her memory and she goes through a reset. If Peter Parker ever comes up to her and says, "I love you too," it could potentially be the triggering phrase that awakens her to bridge the arc of her past life to the present life, theoretically.
It's very mind controlling.
Very mind controlling. You got it.
That trigger right there, that's called a mimetic device. They use it all the time.
Thank you. And this weaves us into just a quick review of some of this graphic I've brought up before. Let's see. Can I do oh wait. Can I do I did, didn't I? Started all over.
But of course you may do a screen share.
All right. This is from our previous works and the Eternals. When we worked on the Eternals episode. Okay, here, I think I'm ready.
Can you make it big?
Let's see.
So we see here, though, that MK Ultra and MCU have logical connection here, big time.
Yes. I'm not sure if I can make it any bigger. It's as big as it gets on my screen here.
You can't click on the actual image.
Let me see.
No dice, huh? That's weird. Should work. Okay.
So this is just evidence that MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, corresponds very strongly with MKU, Mind Control Ultra program. The numerological value of the letters are identical, and this is just something that I think is worthwhile, considering that we were just talking about mind control programming. It is absolutely integral to this conversation and will be going forward. So as much as we love these movies, they're incredibly entertaining. There is a lot of disclosure going on between the lines, and that is just something to think about, that it is very duplicitous, that it has these virtuous messages and lessons that sure we would expose our kids to and pass it on. With great power comes the need for great responsibility. That's crucial to know. But this is military industrial complex, the MIC KEYMOUSE club, and we are not in it. Military industrial complex, MIC.
Okay, so to continue that theme, here's the next screenshot in the bank. This is later, after Peter gets home and everyone knows who he is now. He is frantically shutting all the doors and closing the blinds so that nobody can see in the home what's going on outside, and so no one can see in the home. Kind of your first allusion to him desperately trying to return to the private, but His family and friends that are gathered here are completely oblivious to what's going on. There are thousands of people gathered outside the apartment. There are news helicopters right outside the window, and nobody knows what's going on until the TV tells them what's going on. This is your mind control right here.
Mm-hmm.
They're oblivious the truth in front of their face until it is given to them by the official source.
Yeah. Even the moment when Mary Jane was identified by the crowd, it's like they couldn't see her until they got the ability to see from their phone. Yeah, it was a very strong theme through the whole first couple minutes of that film. And then, one other point, that moment when Spider-Man says, "What the," and they bleep out the F word.
Right.
That's a great honking. It's blanked out by a honking sound of a vehicle.
Oh yeah.
which is
funny.
just interesting to me. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah, but
you just called her by reflectively Mary Jane, because that's her name, right? That's all of our Spider-Man's girlfriend's name is Mary Jane, but this character is not Mary Jane.
Thank you,
Michelle Jones.
Thank you.
Another thing I want to come back to is the name changes. When they change the names of things, and
yes.
Wayne McCory, thank you very much for the Home Depot and Home Depot. They change little things like the spelling of Fruit Loops or the spelling of somebody's name. Like it's MJ, but it's not Mary Jane,
That's
and
a
she's
really
not
good
a redhead anymore.
Mandela Effect hint.
Yeah,
yes.
right?
Yes.
They're kind of signaling, they're telling you what they're doing, and you're not paying attention.
Yeah, there's so much information in there. It's like there is correspondence enough that they're the same, but also sussing out the distinguishing differences reveals many layers of insight. Maybe even shows intention.
Well, the old version of Mary Jane, the classic, she was all "Go get him, tiger," and this Mary Jane is all "Expect disappointment, because then you'll never be disappointed." It's a definite inversion of the character's past optimistic, supportive element. I mean, she's supportive in this movie or whatever, but it's a very different MJ, to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the Mary Jane that makes you feel all good.
Right.
Great point.
It's maybe more of a pharmaceutical replacement, you could say.
She's definitely the depressant.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, good one. Now, here's another screenshot. So while they're watching the news, it shows a clip of Spider-Man getting slimed by somebody's slushy. But look at the color of the slushy. I don't know that there's any gas station in the world that has that shade of electric artificial neon lime green. And it's coinciding with all the color imagery of the Daily Bugle, which we'll talk about a lot later. There'll be a chance for that. But this is really relevant. If anyone listens to Crow, I don't know if it's come up for a while, but I know Wayne will know what we're talking about. That whenever media wants to get everybody talking about one particular idea, particularly in the realm of things having to do with pandemics, it's gone on for time immemorial, with Ebola and Zika and all these things. They will make sure that this color, this unnatural green, is heavily shown in the news broadcasts. And throughout the film, this color is constantly present, more like all the time. I know all the colors in the rainbow are constantly present, but I really noticed it when I was scanning through to get screenshots, and I could have grabbed tons and tons of examples of where there's this prominent electric neon green, giving us maybe this idea of toxicity.
Nice.
And he's going viral right now. He's going
viral. That's bingo. That's a great point. Yes, it's like somebody sneezed on him. So I have an example, if I can, of when this color of green has been used recently. One is the yellow vest movement over in France. where those people were protesting. But let's see. I also have pulled up the mediator from the presidential debates, and she was wearing a bracelet. Let's see. She's wearing a bracelet that gives her permission to be there because she's tested. She's been tested, so she has permission to be in the building. And so the fact that they associate this little wristband with with COVID, is very, very profound to me. So yeah, we have seen this unnatural green, and I put capitalized the UN, naturally United Nations agenda based.
Wayne just pointed out in the chat that he can't get the green out of his outfit once he's like infected, right? That this definitely is a symbol for the illness, the multivirus.
Yes.
Which I have so much to say about the idea of the multivirus, but we'll get there.
Great point. That's a brilliant point.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the initiation of the viral. And even Mysterio, the character who causes all this mayhem, he's constantly shown with that type of green.
I remember noticing that when I was a kid with all the Spider-Man villains, because it's a thing you design into the story. Like you want your villains to contrast against your hero's suit, right? So if you have a red and blue hero, you do opposite of the color wheel. You do a green or whatever. You make them sit apart from each other, like black hats and white hats. Except we got all the other colors. So if we're doing America, we want the opposite. We're going to do this green. Or like Hulk villains. Hulk villains have the opposite. Like Hulk's big villain was when Wolverine showed up, blue and yellow, right? He wasn't green. But he was the combination of those colors.
I'm having a thought. Green. I'm having an amazing thought. What if it's when you take the colors of Ukraine and you blend them together,
you get green.
You get yuck green. That's green of the Ukraine. And that is going to be part of the color programming that Chance and I stumbled upon as we get deeper into the movie. But I've been seeing the Ukraine gold and blue. We all have quite a bit lately, but it gets a lot of strategic placement towards the end of the movie. Once the scientists get together and they start sciencing out the problem, once Deus Ex Machina has been established.
Something of a scientist myself, You
got it, man. Yes.
Says the green goblin.
Right. Yes. So I think we're looking at the yuck green of Ukrainian colors coming together. That's great. That's fun. That's nice. But we'll get into that later because it is kind of towards the end that the Ukraine colors are all part of the play, all part of the stage.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so moving forward, this is the point in the plot where they all get arrested by damage control for Spider-Man's unlicensed vigilantism. So,
which is DC, damage control. It's DC.
Right. That definitely doesn't mean Detective Comics anymore. Okay.
So here is the interrogation scene where we firmly establish that in the theme of the public and the private, that MJ, Michelle Jones, she represents the private as the feminine side of yin and yang does in a spiritual sense as you compare it to law. So she is not hesitant. She is refusing to answer any questions. She's shot hesitant, but she won't speak to the guy without a lawyer. She knows all the things to say to disarm his interrogation. And then we get Ned, who immediately spills the beans as the male, the yang, the public character. He is entrapped by his own glory seeking as Spider-Man's guy in the chair. And so throughout the movie, there are some other points that I picked up on that I'll point out, where one of his friends represents the public and one represents the private. And it's always MJ is the private and Ned is the public. And there's probably more about this scene that may be interesting. What do you guys think?
Well, right off the bat, I see that in the smaller cam down below, it looks like there's the Ned is on the, they're all in Ned's room there. All of those cameras, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. But yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's physiological, the male is in the public. He is external. The female, physiologically. Internal, the private. I mean, it's undeniable fact of gender, the seventh hermetic principle. And they're sitting and they're sealed in a room. All of those have to do with that seventh hermetic principle, the seventh chakra, and being sealed off and being one boy, one girl, one public, one private. Yep.
They seemed like MJ was more in the dark as well, like more in shadow and lighting. Because it seems like they set her back a little bit more. They set him looks like the lighting is the same in the center of the room, but it looks like she's like set back in the shadow just enough. It's a little bit more shaded. Let's see. Yeah, I could be wrong, but her hands are down. She's not open like when you're talking.
Yeah.
She's her body posture is more, I'm not talking, which, right. And that's the first thing they say when they see Peter is, don't talk without a lawyer.
Right. In one observation, the investigator takes a seat, a relaxed, recumbent position for MJ, and he puffs up and towers over for Ned. So there's even that dichotomy of the gender, good cop, bad cop from the same cop.
Which you do. You're muted again, buddy.
Yeah, sometimes I mute myself on the screen and not on the mixer, and I mix myself right up. But Brian pointed out that green color is also so prominent in the Matrix films. Oh, yeah. It is the Matrix, which is language. And I'm glad we're saying that, because we have a few points, I'm sure, to make about Twilight language, as it is kind of hinted at in this film through objects in the background scenery.
Yes. Green speak.
Green speak. Yeah, exactly. The green language of the birds. Okay, so here's another screenshot coming at you. This is where they've lawyered up with Matt Murdock, Daredevil, and he's warning them that he may be able to get them out of trouble in the legal sense, but they will still be tried by the court of public opinion. And I thought that was a really profound statement. And then right at that point, someone throws a brick through the window and the blind man catches it. But the court of public opinion, is that not where Russia has been crucified recently? In this Ukraine thing?
Yes.
Really interesting.
And also the hesitant who don't want to be fixed. They don't want the multivirus fix that we all know what I'm alluding to. Those rape needles. Does YouTube know that phrase? I should just stick with cowpoke. I don't think they're onto that one.
Yeah, this This was an interesting scene. I noticed that they did a very detail-oriented job of portraying the brick, the shadow of the brick flying, even before it hits the window. So the viewer, almost, it's as though our reflexes are tested. That they telegraph the projection coming through the window before you hear the window break. So just an observation.
And what does the brick say on it? I don't remember now. We believe
Mysterio was right or something like that.
Mysterio
yeah.
was
We
right.
believe
Yeah, something
Mysterio.
like
Good.
Right,
Yep,
exactly.
that's it.
Yeah.
I could scan around and find it in the
Believing
film
the
here, but it's
illusion?
probably not worth it.
We believe the illusion.
Yeah,
Right.
In other words. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is. They throw stones at people that are not hypnotized,
Right.
and the ones
Right.
that have broken the spell, they're not the ones throwing bricks in people's windows. You notice?
Yeah. Great point. Freemasonry. Incoming
Hey.
Freemasonry.
Hey, that's good. We're already thinking about masonry, but we haven't mentioned it yet. But Peter Parker is May's son. He's a May son. And
Yep.
there's some hints to that as we go. I mean, just as a symbol. I mean, not that he's literally in a secret society, but he is in a secret society called the Avengers, and even his group with his friends, he's hanging out with wizards. He's a Mason.
Yep.
Dude, we all hang out with wizards. Come on.
Joshua just pointed out, didn't Mysterio reveal Spider-Man's shim? And yeah, it's his name, right? His great name. I wonder if Joshua has more to catch on that. Oh,
well,
you know what? Let's talk about real quick, because I had you check out some of my Spider-Verse comics today, and you had a really good point. Okay, so without too much backstory, there's a comic series called Spider-Verse where the multiversal versions of Spider-Man have to come together to fight interdimensional spider vampires that feed on Spider-Man specifically.
Oh, right.
It's actually really awesome comic arc. And this family of vampires, they all dress like Victorian era people. And when Gabe was looking at the first issue that shows them, and they've all got, even the women, they all have extremely pronounced widow's peaks in their hairline. And I was like, nice catch, man. And yeah, he is a widow's son too. Peter is, because Ben is gone. Although in this universe, he's not. He does. There's no father figure at all. There's no Uncle Ben in existence. That's been Mandela affected out.
Right. Right.
Wow. I hadn't even ever thought of the widow's peak being a Masonic thing.
Well, maybe not literally, but it's a hint.
Well,
symbolically.
It's
right.
But it could be referring to bloodlines.
That
pretty good.
That could definitely more, because I mean that was kind of started by Dracula. It was the Dracula trope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. A vampiric indicator for sure. Right. And kind of riffing off what Joshua brought there about exposing his shem. That is crucial, because his shem is his name. Shem rhymes with shame. It's also a shemesh, I believe, is a prop. But it makes Peter want to put the mask back on. It initiates the whole audience into thinking, oh, his shem has been revealed. Now, if he could only put the mask back on it, and that is what gets him into the entire problem of messing with the fabric of reality. And Dr. Strange actually says, you asked me to brainwash the world before you went and tried to fix your problems in a mundane way. And so it's just interesting that the solution to having the shem exposed, the name exposed, the solution is to hide behind a mask again. If only this mask worked. My mask isn't working like it used to. And now I need to go brainwash the world so that the mask can have its power back.
Yeah, and it's, oh man, it is so sneaky. It is like getting the viewer who is suspending their disbelief to accept that the solution to brainwash the world is a good idea and is moral and okay because it's for the hero. It's for Spider-Man. He's the good guy.
Right.
And you don't think twice about it. This is my first time putting two and two together that, yeah, they so sneakily make that horrific concept, brainwash the world, into the like totally okay. That's what we're doing. Let's go. Wow.
Yeah. Like they're saying, hey guys, listen, when they get called out, be like, look, no. We did this for your own good. We lied to you for your own good because you're too stupid to figure, you're too dumb to govern yourselves, you little fucking monkeys.
Yeah, man. Yeah, mask off. Yes. And I'll try to brief this out very quickly.
Wait, before you do, on just a quick thing, even quicker.
Mm-hmm.
The next screenshot, since we were talking about him being a May son, just happens to be when they're moving into Happy's apartment. I grabbed the screenshot just because there's a particular jersey on the wall that happens to be
33.
Number 33. Not an evil number, anybody, but it's giving you a clue, I think, that synchronistically that this happened to be my next screenshot when we got into the masonry idea.
Is the other one a New York Islanders, right? Is that an Islanders jersey? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Not a hockey guy.
That's New York Islanders.
Interesting. So we got a jersey. We're talking about New York. We got the 33 is on the stairs of Ascension. Incredibly Masonic.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
And a basketball goal. Is it baseball or basketball or both that were invented by Masons?
Well,
I know baseball
both.
Definitely is alleged to be.
Right. And it's also it's a ritual for Bastet. It's Bastet ball. Bastet's Egyptian name is she who has her hand in the ointment jar. And so when you're slam dunking the ball into the basket, that's all ritual for Bastet, for sure.
Well, check out this comment. Masons are instructed to protect widows and orphans, so Spider-Man is an operative Mason in practice. That's a really good observation, Joshua.
That's very good. Yeah.
It also makes me think of the Independent Order of Oddfellows, or even instructed to like teach as well.
Yeah.
Oddfellows are like the next level deep in the secret societies. So there, anyway, Gabe, I said it would be quick, but apparently there was a lot to get into.
So, no, this is good. This is all very good. So just a quick run through of history with Carl Jung would brag and boast that he was related to Goethe, or how do you pronounce it, Chance? Goethe. Whoever it is that wrote Faust, the story of Faust, which was then put into theatrical production and proliferated for a very long time. But he believed he was related to that author. And that author often centered a lot of his witchiness around Mount Brocken. And people can look up Mount Brocken. It is a mountain in Germany where they put the very first broadcasting tower in place to broadcast the first World Olympics, firsts. All of these firsts, they love firsts. It's all about that first initiation, the offering, the first fruit. They're all about that. So Mount Brocken was the first TV tower that broadcast the Olympics live in, I forget, 1934 maybe. But what is really powerful about that is that the old mythology of Mount Brocken was that you could stand there as the sun went down behind you, and it would broadcast your shadow onto the clouds in the valley below and make you into a larger-than-life giant, just like Plato's wall, Plato's cave. So the metaphor for Plato's cave, thank you, Chance, nice, is
this is
in
the Brocken Spectre.
Brocken Spectre. It's all centered in this location where the first broadcasting was literally performed ritualistically with the Olympics, and it all ties into Carl Jung's bloodline, and he believes that he was related to the author who proliferated the magic of this location. So that is, there's way more to say, but that's just a surface level peek at how.
And we've been talking a lot about color symbolism. And Goethe, one of his most famous things that he researched or wrote about was color theory that went beyond the current thinking of the time.
Nice. I'm loving that. And then to bring Carl Jung into modern influence and proliferation in the States, Carl Jung was called in by Alan Dulles to be a major military advisor on the psychological profile of Hitler and his minions, allegedly. And in doing so, having Carl Jung as an advisor to Alan Dulles, founder of the CIA, there's your firsts. He was the first commander of the CIA. Dulles gave Carl Jung an agent number. Carl Jung was spy number 488. So 488 is a Carl Jung call sign as his agent connection to the United States. And one last thing, just to bring it all together, because this is so much fun. Spider.
Hold on.
Yeah.
488 hertz is the frequency for, I can't remember which, but it is one that actually matches straight to the chakras in the harmonic set.
Oh my
god! Which one it is? I will look that up. I don't remember which it is, but I will find out.
Well, can I do a quick screen share? I think I know what I was doing wrong before. Let me try again.
Okay, maybe I botched that. Maybe it's not. It's 480 that is the sacral, but it probably corresponds to something.
To the crown chakra, right?
Oh,
Is
you're
the
right.
crown
No,
chakra?
488 is crown chakra. It 100% is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Did I do this right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Sorry, I'm a few screens away. I got myself lost in all the tabs. Okay, so you're not up yet, but do it again and I'll get you there.
Food in there too?
See.
Sweet action. You got me on camera with food in my teeth. That was awesome.
Nice.
Sweet. There's a first.
They're talking about in the Rockfin chat things being under a dome. Okay, so now that we're talking about the crown chakra, there is scenery in the end of the film where the multiverse is cracking open, the firmament is breaking, and all this purple crown energy color is seeping through the cracks in the dome.
Oh, yes. Fun. Towards the end, for sure.
There's definitely some firmament, flat earth reveal there.
So
okay, I'll bring you up now. Nice call.
Is that working?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I've done tarot major correspondence, the major arcana of the tarot correspondence to all of the Avenger films, and it's a no-brainer with Peter Parker here. He's absolutely the Hanged Man. Let's see. Doctor Strange is absolutely the magician, the Magi. But here's another. Can you guys see this one?
Right.
He's resting.
The reversed hangman.
Well,
I mean, he's kind of in this shot. He's a reversal hangman. That's a good point. He's got the leg crossed.
And he even has the book illuminating his crown. And that I think of that in the hangman sense. That's his spidey senses. That's Spider-Man's spidey senses.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the book is a chemistry book, and he's having a chemistry moment in the private here.
Right. And that's kind of some people would tell someone who has natural spidey senses that they have a chemical imbalance. Oh, you're just paranoid. You must have a chemical imbalance.
Well, if you think you're talking to yourself, you're talking to two other versions of yourself. You definitely need to be medicated, right?
Right.
Oh, and then you said all that because the Hanged Man, in the divinatory sense, can represent bad medication, getting bad
Wow.
medical advice, or becoming ill at the hands of a practitioner of so-called medicine. That's literally a meaning of the
Interesting.
Hanged Man. Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting. Oh man, which way to go from here? There's so much laid out.
It's
So
starting to really get, this web is starting to get pretty sticky.
yes, well, so Oscorp, Osborne, who is the Goblin, his company name is Oscorp, which you just move the O to the end of the word Oscorp and you get Scorpo. And so he is Scorpio, and Hanged Man is in the station of Scorpio, and there are 2 tarot cards in Scorpio: the Hanged Man and the Death card. And wouldn't you know?
It's going to come into play later, big time. What you just weaved.
Yes, that kiss of betrayal is central to what the Green Goblin is going to embody going forward in the film. That kiss of betrayal in the Scorpio station, being October.
Got a little ahead of ourselves. Oh yeah, Man, I didn't get any screenshots of this. Oh wait, I think I did. There are Halloween decorations in a scene not far from now. Scorpio, October, Halloween, right there in Scorpio.
Thank you for bringing that up, Chance. I noticed in that scene, so we're talking about the donut shop, and the owner makes a big deal about MJ not taking down the Halloween decorations, and I was like, why is that a big deal? Because clearly it's a big deal. They don't throw these little things into these scripts without putting a lot of thought into these. Why is it Halloween? Why is it,
see the green, the kind of gross green, and then the Ukraine colors too.
Yuck green.
Yeah, Ned is wearing the gold and blue, yellow and blue.
The friend, his buddy, right. His comrade, his ally. Go ahead.
So if you look at the decorations, you think of Halloween decorations as they always have like a Frankenstein and a vampire and a mummy and then a witch, right? All of these are witches. If you look into there you go. Yeah. And even the vampires and the lights up there have witch hats. They're not, and in the background, those aren't Frankenstein heads. Those are witch heads.
Mm-hmm.
And there's on the other wall, there's black cats. So there's not, it's traditional Halloween, but it's not, it's talking about the magicians.
Right. That's that's where Peter gets the idea to go see Dr. Strange.
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting in there thinking, oh, what do I do now that none of us got into MIT? And he looks at the decorations and he's like, oh, I know a witch. Yeah. And then he goes off to see Dr. Strange.
Good call. Okay, we got a little ahead of the plot in terms of a couple of the screenshots I have. So let's back up a little.
Yes.
Peter goes to his high school and he's, mobbed by all the people that now know who he is. But there's this scene where he's talking to his teachers and principals, or his principal, and we don't have to get into all that entailed, but this mural behind him really stuck out, especially because I was doing a little bit of looking into murals, and man, this is funny. Okay, let's just weave it all the way back. You're here right now, Gabriel, in my house, which is awesome, and we've been doing all kinds of adventures. And in the chat, we have Sunseed, who is Rachel. She was with us yesterday. We went to the park by my house, and I showed you guys the walk of propaganda. There are all these plaques in the ground, almost like tombstones of various key figures in propaganda history across all parts of the spectrum, like Rosa Parks and, scientist characters and the Roosevelt presidents and just the really key, crucial people whose story is important to embodying the American mythos. And one of the names that was on these mini plaques was, I can't remember the name now, but was an artist who was a mural painter who painted murals like this. If you've ever been to a city hall building somewhere in any Americana locale, you might see a historical mural that shows you like the history of the relations of the settlers to the natives and things like that. I always think of the show Parks and Rec, where they had these horrific murals on the wall where the like really bad stuff is happening, but it's like painted to be all glorious and historical. So this is one of those murals that is showing you the mythology of scientism, which is a key part of this movie, the programming of the belief and faith in scientism above and beyond what is logical or rational to believe is possible, and deep into the magical science. So I'm sure Gabe has some thoughts on the characters that are on the wall here.
Yes. One thing that first and foremost is we have an integration of true, actual historical characters and Marvel fictional characters. So this is a tapestry, a woven tapestry of truth and fiction coming in and out together. And they intentionally express some of their diametric opposition by through placement on this mural. So you will see that Stark's father, Howard Stark, I believe is his name. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Howard Stark is over Peter Parker's shoulder there. He's the one most prominent right there by the window. And his nemesis in the fiction of the storyline of Marvel was Pym, Dr. Pym. And that
Hank.
is Hank Pym. Thank you. And he is the one who is over the left shoulder on the opposite side of that window. So they are in opposition of each other. And the window is very much like a checkerboard floor. So we've got the black and white duality kind of thing going on big time. But that is not
where... Nelson Mandela under Howard Stark, though? That's what I want to know.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Chat's got to know. It's
maybe not... somebody could help us out. I don't think that's who that is, but
to be.
I know that would be cool. That would be super cool. But just another point is we have Einstein over there on that, I guess, right side of the screen, and his somebody who he did not get along with well was Tesla, who was over on the left-hand side. So we have these opponents placed in oppositional positions to one another. And there is so much more that is just barely getting into the nitty-gritty of what is being shown here. But one point is, do you see the vial, the red vial floating in space next to Howard Stark? That's one of Pym's inventions. Pym's vial is over by his opponent. His opponent is looking at the property, the intellectual property of Hank Pym. So that kind of is, I think, is indicating that you think you would want to blame Pym for his invention, but it got into the wrong hands. And it still has his name on it, but somebody else is using what he created.
I think it reflects the rivalry between Edison and Tesla, personally.
Yes. Yes, and that comes up so many times. Like we were talking about, Chance, with like Hegel. You know, people label things, oh, that's Hegelian, therefore Hegel must be the asshole. But, you know, not necessarily. People just take these wonderful works of people's life effort and put a twist on it with their agenda and leave the name to absorb all the animosity.
That happens all the time. Yeah, I'm glad we paused on that. I'm sure the chat has a lot of thoughts and maybe can help us crowdsource who that Nelson Mandela is. The fact that it makes us think of Mandela, I feel like that's at least got to count for something. Now, I guess I'll pop over. We already covered this, the hanged man symbol, and she's reading in the news all the propaganda against him. Okay. So here they're having a private moment. They're about to maybe get romantic. And then here comes Ned, the public, barging in to their private moment. I just wanted to point that out as a continuation of the public-private dichotomy between MJ and Ned.
Also, the graffiti is it's just green. And what is it, green and blue?
Oh, yeah. Chance, you had a thought on that.
Yeah, to me, the G-Hane, G-H-A-N-E, I really thought it reminded me of Ghislaine.
Oh,
G-Lane.
wow.
I don't know. Because that H, the way that the leg comes over, almost makes it look as an L.
Like a backwards L, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a major trial where she was on trial in the courts, but, you know, the public opinion didn't really affect the outcome, right?
Yeah. GH is Mercury in my eyes. That's something to think about.
GHHG, yeah.
GH and HG, yeah. Nice.
All right, you let her rip on this one there, buddy. Okay, he goes to ask the wizard for help to brainwash the world, although he doesn't know that's what he's asking for. Originally, he wants to ask the wizard to use the time travel powers to save him, which is also equally irresponsible. And that time stone is the green stone, as Rachel pointed out in the chat.
Excellent.
The alchemical green stone.
Okay, so this moment in the film, when I was watching it in the theater, brought what I think is a pretty powerful epiphany, a moment of epiphany for me. And this is where I finally think I have placed a historical persona onto Doctor Strange. And I believe, so this is the moment where Doctor Strange, they come down the stairs. I think he floats down the stairs, but when he lands...
Yeah, he floats.
Yeah, but when he lands, he has a little slip. His footing is lost. So
don't forget the cape, the carpet, the rug is what carries him down the stairs.
Right, with his magical cape powers. So in that moment, it dawns on me that I believe that Aleister Crowley is being expressed in the fictional character of Doctor Strange, and in so many ways. But
I'm sure we'll find out when the Multiverse of Madness comes out. Strange movie.
Yes. So there are many things to say about this theory, but I will try to be very brief so we can move forward. But one of the many legends of Aleister Crowley's life has to do with his relationship with William Yeats, the poet. And actually, I wish I had pulled up some of but there was what's called the Battle of the Blythe incident, where Crowley basically breaks into one of the magical headquarters and has a confrontation with Yeats. And it is said that Yeats kicked Crowley down the stairs. And so Crowley has a reputation of not having the best of luck with stairs. And that myth has actually been expanded, and there are many versions of it, a lot of euhemism, euhemology going on with that myth. I have actually heard variations where he was standing at the top of the stairs and they pulled the rug out from under him so that he fell down the stairs. But I think the most believable one is that there was a physical altercation and he was pushed down the stairs, maybe kicked.
Think about if the rug got pulled out from under him, how that correlates to the cape carrying him down the stairs in this scene.
Yes, and it happened in the original Doctor Strange. He was in a fight with a guy with that I forget the guy, his other nemesis from the original, and he gets thrown over the banister and goes falling down at the stairwell, and the cape shoots down and catches him. And that's his defining moment. That's his resurrection scene. He rises gloriously back into sight, and he has the Christ posture and everything. And that scene is very memorable, as is the mythology that Crowley was kicked down the stairs by Yates. So there are many other things to reinforce that theory, but I just thought I would bring it forward here because this was the moment when it dawned on me in the movie theater where I'm like, well, of course, Crowley is absolutely so Alistair, STR, Alistair, and Dr. Strange. And I did the gematria for Doctor Strange. Maybe it was Dr. Stephen Strange, and it came to it reduces to a 1, and also Aleister Crowley, the gematria reduced down to a 1. So there's a lot more to say about that. Maybe I'll bring it up on my channel and give the extended version of that theory, but I'm just going to put that forward there. And just so everybody knows, I believe that Aleister Crowley, much like we said of Hegel, you know, they took somebody's body of work and they just piled on mythology on top of mythology until the actual factual events and of what really happened are just lost to people's imagination over time.
Well, I've been thinking about that this whole time when we were talking about the name changes and stuff. I was, reading up on Hermes and
Crowley got a name change. It was Aleister Crowley, and now it's Aleister Crowley. They added an I.
Oh yeah, that's right. Huh?
And it now it's everywhere with an I. Kind of considered a Mandela effect of its own.
Amazing. Like, I mean, I guess we kind of do that. Like, I go by a nickname. I mean, Gordy isn't my full real first name. It's Gordon, but it does affect how people treat you also. It's much more casual. It's not as formal. And so people treat you differently. So imagine if I put a I or started changing the spelling, Alistair. Oh,
yes. Or if you put
fancy ass pants.
Yeah, man. Yep. Or if you put DR period in front of Gordy, Dr. Gordy.
Dr. Gordy.
That would change everything.
Oh, Gabrielle.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. In the realm. Yep. I like to say in the world of subtle energies, the slightest alteration has the most monumental effect. So
Ginny B pointed out that the guy that we were saying might be Mandela was maybe George Washington Carver.
Oh, probably.
Ooh.
I think he was on the plaque of propaganda stories in the park that we went to.
Nice, Jenny.
That the Ant-Man is standing on his head.
Oh.
When you look at you're talking about the Pym particle, the vial of the Pym particles is right next to the little tiny man. That's the Ant-Man. Yeah, there you go. He's standing on his head and Howard's staring at it. He's not staring at all the other eyes are staring at you. Howard's eyes are staring at the thing in front of him.
Good point.
Yeah, it's a really weird effect, actually. Really weird effect.
Sorry.
Nice.
I just caught that. So
that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, and so you really do see that slip at the bottom of the stairs quite clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's the fixer of this story. To go back to that word fix that is so important. And let's see here. He's holding a mug.
Yeah. That
says, "Oh, for Fox's sake, Fox fix." What can we say about the fox?
Which is also the trickster. Fox is always known as being sly as, And what did you say, Gabriel? It was.
I believe it's a Jesuit.
Oh, it was you, Chance. Yeah.
Yep, it's a Jesuit totem for sure. They are the foxes. Another point is, like you said, trickster, and the fool card is falling off the cliff. He almost fell when he came down and had the slip, and also OX is an ox, which is an initiation in and of its own right, because Aleph, the first letter, means ox. I think Fehu might mean ox. So you have F for Fehu, ox, all initiation symbols. Yeah, for sure. There's so much just in that.
Yeah, it means like sheep or cattle. So an ox could kind
Okay.
of fit in there for sure.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so an initiation. And that's what is about to happen to Peter Parker. Peter Parker is about to get fast-tracked through the initiation rituals that Doctor Strange went through, which I think we'll be getting into in the next couple scenes here.
Yeah, really interesting that they, the animal totems they chose right there, huh? What do you think those are, fellas?
I see an elephant, because we're dealing with memory here. Makes sense. He's trying to cast a spell to make the world forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. This is a ram, I think.
Nice.
And here's the crown again, the amethyst, crown chakra. And I think that's an owl, and that looks like an egg, if I had to guess.
Right. So these are, so the elephant is blowing a horn and has horns. That's the shofar of initiation. Also, the ram is a symbol of initiation for the spring equinox. The owl, so that Athena, the Astrega, the strategist of the Astregas, and the egg.
And
Also
owls do have to
transformation.
do magically with concealment and secrets because they can see in the dark. So
Nice.
the owl totem has to do with seeing the unseen. And in this context, it's like putting something back into the realm of the unseen or the unknown.
Nice. Nice. And also 360-degree perspective because their heads spin.
It's a flat Earth model too. I'm just saying.
Ooh.
It's a flat Earth reveal because this is the spell that goes haywire and cracks the dome later with this purple crown energy leaking through. And there's the egg in the background. The dome being the shell of the egg, metaphorically, the cosmic egg.
Nice. I dig it. I totally dig it.
It's even got like platforms, the way the Ben is described, which is the plane of the realm by the Egyptians. It's got these stair steps here.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent.
Wow.
So yeah, Spider-Man is about to change his mind 5 times on what he wants the spell to be. Or actually, correction. Oh yeah, 5 times. He adds 5 different stipulations to the spell. And Doctor Strange tells him, you just made me change it 6 times. And there's this, very brief disagreement to who sees it what way. Spider-Man sees it as 5. Strange is thinking 6. And they point out that Doctor Strange had to make an exception for himself and Wong, because Wong said, leave me out of this when he left the sanctum. So Strange had to leave himself and Wong out of the spell also. So for the Magi, it was 6, but for the initiate, it was 5. And that's very interesting because we know that they like to mislead the initiate ever so slightly so that they don't become the master too fast.
I got something for you.
Yeah.
You're going to like this, buddy. Okay, so there's a scene. We've probably already passed it. I didn't grab a screenshot of it, but we're in the background of Peter's belongings. There is a book about anagrams, right? Can you recall what the name of that book was or similar name?
Yep, I can pull it up. It is, let's see.
This is the green language thing again, because anagramming is a encoding methodology for green language and Twilight speak. So either way, like find out what that is, but it is pointed out in another scene later, which I have a screenshot of, that is an important idea.
Here it is.
Aleister Crowley is an anagram for serial Sir Owls. But when I say Sir, I mean Tyre, Tyre. which is pronounced Sir. It's the rock, the Lord. That's what
Yes.
that word means. And so you have Cereal, Ceres, the goddess, which we see as Columbia. We see the Statue of Liberty later in the film. And then the rock, like that amethyst that's there, the crown, the crown, the Lord, the Most High, and then owls.
Yes.
And we saw owls in that spell bowl.
Yes.
Cereal, Sir Owls.
Right. And cereal means harvest, and it also relates to rituals of purity. Yeah, man, that's a good anagram. So I pulled up the book here. If you can share me, is it working this time?
Yep.
Yeah, we're looking at it.
Nice. Ultimate Anagram Puzzle Book. And that comes into play a couple times as we go forward. There were quite a few. There were anagrams on some of the license plates when he fights Doc Ock. One of which
owl's the enemy of the spider too. Wayne just put that in the chat. I've been sleeping on the rocking chat because I can't look at both of things at the same time. But whoa,
excellent!
Say it again. What was it?
The owl's the enemy of the spider. Athena punishes Arachne.
Right.
Bohemian Grove. Weaving spiders come not here.
Nice. So yeah, the anagrams come up a couple times through the movie, but I'll just point out that was a very fast shot in the film. It was while they had been arrested. That was the police capturing evidence of their bedroom, of the ultimate privacy. The police go in and start snapping these pictures in a quick flash of a series of pictures. That anagram is shown to the audience as a little slight reveal, tip of the hand. It also
a little later you have this green box when they're exploring the wizard's dungeon, the Undercroft, the underworld that the owls are the guardian of. Word Yahtzee.
Word Yahtzee.
The anagrammy green language, green box, if you will.
Yes. One of the license plates during the fight scene had an anagram in the license plate that said could be rearranged to spell out spiders, plural.
Right, the fight scene with Dr. Octopus, which is next here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so anagrams will kind of come up later, but it is definitely flashing to us that is an art form that we should all keep in our tackle box, so to say.
One thing I want to point out too, I just want to put it out there in case anybody knows and has like a huge collection of Star Wars figures, that if whatever that Star Wars action figure is, I'm thinking it's Porkins from the original movie, who is if you remember the first Star Wars, Porkins is the big guy, the pilot who smashes his plane into his fighter into the Death Star. He's like the first one to get sacrificed.
Oh, nice.
So I'm just keep an eye out for Ned's character if he's going to be sacrificed of some, because they're clearly correlating Porkins
right.
and Ned now.
Nice. And Chris pointed out the fact that in the comics, Ned is one of the hobgoblins that happen. The hobgoblin mantle goes to many characters, but he wears, instead of green, he wears like blue and yellow and orange.
Boom.
Wow.
Boom.
I did not know that. Thank you, Chris.
Great detail. That's a great detail.
Nice.
So one thing that
they foreshadow it later in the movie when Tobey Maguire's like, my best friend died in my arms after he tried to kill me. And Ned's like, oh shit, is that what my fate is as Spider-Man's best friend in this universe?
Yep. So one point from the film is that in the earlier Spider-Man, Ned drops the Death Star when he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man. At the revelation of the fact that his best buddy is Spider-Man, he drops the Death Star and the Death Star gets destroyed. In this film, the Death Star is being put together by the robotic arm that Tony Stark, that Happy is connected to. Grabby. I think its name is Grabby. And Grabby is putting the Death Star together, and there's a scene where the Death Star rolls off the table and it gets destroyed a second time. Well, that is highlighting the fact that the Death Star is destroyed twice in Star Wars, which highlights the fact that there were 2 towers on 9/11. Predictive programming through and through, all the way back to Star Wars. Just pointing
That's
that
an
out.
interesting weave. Okay, so let's jump ahead. He's fighting Dr. Octopus. This is the first of the multiversal villains to come through. And this is the point in the analysis where we return to the it took us a while to get back to this, but the theme that the villains represent variants, or as I like to call scariants, Delta, Omicron, whatever, Omega strain. So Doc Ock, he represents the viral vector of injection. The fact that some of the sickness that we see in the world that is attributed to cooties is in the cure itself, coming from the Dr. Octo. And here's his big cowpoke ready to administer.
Yes. This is probably one of the most important aspects of the revelation of the method that this film encodes, I guess, in a major way. But yeah, Dr. Octavius, this is an initiation of sorts, because this is the first time this Peter Parker has met this enemy. While we as the viewers are familiar with them, we have to remember that this is an alternate universe interfacing with the new universe. And so this is an initiation battle of sorts.
And Doc Ock has been Mandela affected himself, because he's like, you're not the Peter Parker I know.
Right. And Chance, should I go into the UPS truck?
Yeah, I didn't get a screenshot of it, but we should. But let's back up and hold that.
Yeah.
So he defeats Dr. Octopus because Doc Ock tries to stab him and knocks a hunk of Peter's suit off. And they show this in the Iron Man movies and in the Spider-Man movies and in Black Panther and lots of the Marvel movies right now. This idea of nanotechnology being what creates the superhero suit. And it is so stupid. So stupid. Like the snap of a finger, the suit completely disappears, and now Peter's wearing his tuxedo or whatever. You know, they can take their helmet off with apparently a thought, because they're not even like pressing a button anywhere. The helmet just goes and like melts away. And this is the magic of science. This is our transhumanist future, this miraculous nanotechnology. So another dumb thing here is that after a suit gets a hunk knocked off of it, the nano parts like replicate themselves and attach themselves to Dr. Octopus's arms and turn the arms from gunmetal gray to red. And then Spider-Man is able to control the arms now, like with a Bluetooth connection, and that's how he defeats him. But it is so stupid, the stuff that they expect us to believe as like futurism about these superhero abilities with their technology.
Yes, the nanobots spread like a virus from contact.
That's a good point.
Yep. And also nano means you don't know. No. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And we definitely don't know that nanobots are functional in the way that they're depicted.
Well, and they hint at it in the Ant-Man stuff too.
Right. It's a big part of all the show business, all fiction.
It's all
and we
fiction,
just saw
people.
the whole October theme too, and Octavius is the first villain we get, and that's a Mercury thing too that Wayne pointed out. It's Auto Octavius. It's 88 miles per hour. You know, he transition dimensions. But
that's excellent.
Such huge, ridiculous transhumanist propaganda in the whole nano thing.
Yeah. So I'll try to be quick, but the first blood that is drawn in the battle between Octavius and Spider-Man Octavius throws him against a car, and then picks him up and launches him through a street sign, a road sign. He breaks through the road sign, and then he penetrates into a UPS truck. And there's actually 2 UPS trucks flashed in the scene. One as he's throwing Peter just to the side of Octavius, and then Peter flies through the windshield of the second UPS truck and disappears. And that, for me, brought forward a very interesting headline from about a year and a half ago, where in the news, they put out an article in Associated Press basically accusing all other delivery companies, except they listed like 3 or 4 delivery companies, UPS, FedEx, all these companies, but they did not list Amazon trucks. They excluded Amazon trucks from the limelight, and they said there are too many trucks on the roads, and it's blocking up traffic in cities because so many people are leaning into this new industry of delivery services, that it's problematic and that it's causing real issue in many towns. So they put a shady light on everybody except for Amazon trucks. And that same week that headline hit everybody's consciousness, there was a huge UPS jacking where multiple thieves, tied up a UPS driver, and it was his first day on the job. So he's a virgin sacrifice. They tie him up and use him as a human shield, and they go on a rampage through the city, like knocking all the cars out of the way. So,
which is reflected in that scene with Otto destroying a bunch of cars.
Yes. And then the UPS driver, who was put in the front of the truck as a human shield so that snipers couldn't get them. Well, they say that 5 different precincts closed in on the UPS truck and lit the whole thing up from 5 different directions. Well, the 5 bullets from 5 different directions, 5 precincts, that's a pentagram. It's a pentagram with a virgin sacrifice in the middle. The whole article had all the signatures of a magic incantation and a spell being put into the minds of the collective. I don't believe any of that really happened the way they told it to us. I think the Associated Press, tweaked it here, tweaked it there, just so it looked like a magical spell. But I'll just point out that having Peter Parker with the first blood drawn in the battle as an initiation scene thrown into a UPS truck was very much hailing back to that trauma that was injected into the minds of those who read Associated Press bullshit.
Yeah, and I know, man, like my mom and dad and my sister all the time, they're just like sending me texts and Facebook messages of like, did you hear that this person murdered this person in town? And here's how horrible all the details were and all the gory aspects. And I'm just like, I never would have heard about this, and it would have never affected my worldview if you hadn't shared this with me today. Mm-hmm. But that even when it's forgotten, especially for people that are just hearing and taking this in every day, all day, just because they may not consciously recall the UPS truck incident when they see that happen, that does not disclude it as being a part of trauma-based mind control, the MCU, MKU, MK Ultra.
Yeah, I mean, if we haven't seen the mind control bullshit, illusion bullshit right now more than ever, like you guys have been out frolicking with Snake Jones and enjoying the wild and loving nature, which I'm so jealous of. And I had to go to work and listen to these dipshits talk about Will Smith and fucking Chris Rock. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh,
Will Smith.
God. I'm like,
guys. Will Smith. He's a Will Smith. It doesn't get more MK Ultra than smithing your will.
Come on. I mean, they're showing you're just.
And a Chris Rock, who took the hit.
Yeah.
He's the Chris. You just missing the cross, and you got Christ with Chris.
And every
the Rock,
single,
the Rock, the Lord, the
scene
the
has
Sir,
him.
the Peter, the Petra, the Rock.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did you have
I
to
don't-
Gordy? I was kind
I
of
don't
talking
know.
over you.
No, it's all right, dude. It's fiction. It's fiction. This is Hollywood.
bro.
You're watching a fucking show. It's a show.
Yep.
And they think this shit's real. Like, oh my God, people are all mad about it. I'm like, oh Christ. And then we got to hear fucking Jim Carrey come put his 2 cents in.
Yikes.
Guys, it's fake. It's not real.
Yes.
They're
It is.
all actors.
So
Yes.
another
This is not
thing that's
real.
symbolically, you're right about that 100%. Not to cut you off. Like,
No, cut me
Rachel's
off, please.
right.
I'm
Preach
done
it,
with
Gordy. But I just remembered from this screenshot that there are actually numerous scenes in the film where there is a prominent triptych in the background.
Oh,
the triple arc.
awesome.
Oh yeah.
Here's one, and then you still see it really prominently. And there's another, at least one more good one that I can remember. And if I was looking for them more, and when I scanned for screenshots, I was just hitting the fast forward 10 seconds at a time and finding all kinds of stuff again. But it's a 2.5 hour long movie. It took me and Gabriel last night, 4.5 hours to watch all of it because we had to pause so many times.
So many times. Yeah,
if you guys just knew like the depth of the things we analyzed out of that. We're probably only grasping at straws compared to watching it in person. So to harken back to what you said, Gordy, about getting to be together in nature and doing Snake Jones stuff, which was awesome. There's more magic really when you get together and decode movies with friends. It's the best way to watch a movie. Really the only way that I want to do it.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. So the triptych arches, those are AI, archway of initiation. This AI, the 3-in-1, the triune. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Snake Jones just said in the chat that he's here, present. What's
buddy.
up, dude?
What
Thanks
up,
for the
Snake?
hospitality. Okay, so top forward. And in this scene where Doc Ock tries to give Peter his lethal injection here, his inoculation from the doctor, it breaks on his armor, but it cuts his tie in half. So I grabbed this screenshot just to kind of reiterate some of the symbolism of Peter being a May's son, because the triptych was just shown as the archways of initiation. In many Masonic initiation rituals, it is common practice and requirement for the initiate to be, the entered apprentice, they're called, to be in some way disheveled, like they have one pant leg rolled up, for example. So I call this, he looks disheveled and his tie is ripped. And to me, that feels like a fit, but maybe it's a stretch.
Yeah, that's the umbilical cord.
And he's trying
Cutting
to
it.
get into the society of this college too. This
Right.
is him pleading his case to the, the Grand Master, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, it's the cutting of the umbilical cord. It's the raping of the placenta to be disheveled, to have your wherewithal. You don't have your wherewithal. So he's in a liminal space. It's like he's half dressed also. But in the ritual, the Masonic ritual, I'm pretty sure it's a noose in the front pulling them forward. But also, I think it's a knife. Yeah, I believe it's a knife in the back, so they can't turn away. And that is really amazingly expressed in the business world, ritualistically, by the tie on the front, much like a noose. And the knife at their back, strangely enough, I think is signifying the tailor. If the suit makes the man, then the man who makes the suit makes the man. And so the tailor is kind of the handler, so to say.
The tailor.
And this is
symbolic for crafting narrative, which is worldview warfare, which is what all shamanic technology is based around, narrative control.
Yep. Yeah. So he is the tailor is the man behind the man. The handler. Very, very interesting how Masonic everything is in plain sight, and they just riff on it in the movie for sure.
Like where we have him with this big M on his chest, and what's this up here? This is my next screenshot. Well, it's really blurry because it's far away, but I guarantee that is a crest with a double-headed eagle on it. Just a point for that symbolism. We don't need to linger on that one very long. Reinforces though. And now we're going to jump forward to the part where he goes after the next villain. And Gabriel so cleverly pointed out this kind of pinkish sky leading up to the fight with Electro, being this is like the pink coloring that is used in all these Verizon advertisements for cell phones and 5G, and how great 5G is going to be, is always paired with this hot pink. And this isn't exactly hot pink, but I found it interesting because these are like power lines and there are cell towers in the scene, and Spider-Man's on the horizon, on the Verizon, right? Before he goes to fight Electro, who, in terms of our analysis of the villains as being different vectors for the so-called virus, EMF poisoning is clearly a vector for what is causing people to get ill right now. And Electro represents that 100%. He's the dirtiest electricity there is.
Yep. I think they call it electric pink. Is the color of the Verizon programming.
Oh, Chelsea's saying T-Mobile is the hot pink. I think they use it in Verizon symbolism too. Maybe it is T-Mobile. Maybe I missed that. I see a lot of commercials.
They might have merged. I think T-Mobile might have bought out Verizon. But I'm not sure. I know T-Mobile bought a lot of people out recently. But there's something to unravel there. Also, having Spider-Man walking on the wires there is very indicative of Carl Jung being the patriarch of the collective conscious and the web of the collective memory, the membranes, the webs being membranes, which are all terms, those are all Carl Jung patented terminology, but that he is walking on those power lines is very strong correspondence with the web of the collective conscious that both Carl Jung and Spider-Man dabble in pretty actively. Oh, you're on the mute. You got the mute again.
Hey, thank you. Good looking out. Okay, so next is this continued fight scene, and then the Sandman shows up. Enter Sandman. Sandman, I believe, represents the aerosol spraying vector of illness around the world. What they call it, chemtrails. It's probably a naughty word. YouTube. But right, he's this sand and this dust storm, and he kind of shows up as a good guy. And I find that really pertinent because aren't we being told that geoengineering is what we have to do to save us from climate change? And isn't climate change the next thing that we're going to be told is why people are sick, and it's already happening? Oh yeah, you're myocarditis, your enlarged heart, has nothing to do with the cowpokes you willingly received over and over again. It's just climate change that's making children have heart attacks at young ages. And so this is geoengineering, which is the solution, dim the sun, the light. And this is even being dimmed by the haze of Sandman.
Yep. Do we want to lean into our 5 variants on this side, or do we want to save it for the other side?
The other side of like the end of the plot, you mean? Because this is all going up. This is all going up free.
I do want to.
Good. Okay, great.
I do want to point out Electro's original suit, and they hint at it when they show him when they first show him, the electric is the 5-pointed star on his face. It's just real quick, but if you know Electro's original costume, he looks like it's a goofy costume.
Yep, but they flash it a couple times in here, don't they?
Yeah,
Yes.
his mask.
it's a
It's his mask that they're flashing. Really,
It's
it's
his
not the whole
mask, yeah.
costumes per se. Also,
Yep.
got to say thank you to the people on Rockfin. It is awesome to see what you guys are chatting about. It's always heartening when more people, a dramatically larger number of people, are watching on Rockfin than are on GooTube. It's pretty awesome. So keep it up,
Sweet.
people. Thank you for that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Much
Let me
appreciated.
just show it. That's fun.
Yes.
Because
So,
it's the original. It's great. It's
so
so
I got
cheesy. I love that.
nice.
I
Oh,
think
how
we might
many?
as well go into that, Gabe, because
Yeah.
here's the next screenshot I have, and I'm going to keep trying to move us forward because there's a lot left. But here's the lizard, right? And this is the vector, the viral vector of being infected by animals and bats and things like that.
Bingo. Yep. Now, Gordy, we're going to get some echidna in here for sure. You better believe. So, echidna is a whole line of research that Gordy just blew my mind when he pointed out that the porcupine is called the echidna, and the reason it's called the echidna is because it is the missing link between reptile and mammal. And that is pretty profound and pretty significant, as the echidna in Greek mythology is the she-viper. And I've done a whole series on how the echidna is very significant to the occult world. And it is echidna in many different characters in mythology. But Medusa is an echidna. And there is an echidna who was the matriarch, the mother of all monsters, who birthed all of the monsters of Greek mythology. She was the wife of Typhon. And so all of these mythological characters are being resurrected into these stories in a major way. So what Chance just said about the lizard being the bridge between the animal world, and human DNA is very significant, because I have some graphics I'm going to bring up that indicate that the lizard man is the echidna, and they are reinforcing that with other symbols. So that will be a theme we're going to riff on here in a second.
Yeah, you let me know when you want me to pull it up. And if you're not ready yet, I'll just move on to the final villain, because he's revealed pretty much right after this too.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the Green Goblin, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And this is the airborne variant. This is catching it in the air. This is cover your face, please, 6 feet apart. And when the Green Goblin is brought onto the stage in this film, the very first thing that happens is his mask, his persona, his dissociative identity is talking to him. It's on the side of a dumpster, and he's having an argument with the mask itself. And at the end of it, he breaks the mask. He shatters it. So it's kind of hinting at the idea that this airborne variant, you need the mask to protect you from it. And he's going without a mask is why he's a villain in a kind of way. I'm sure there's way more to say about the Green Goblin, but he definitely represents the airborne transmission vector of going viral. And he's got all this green going too.
Right. And his name is Osborn. Osborn represents the airborne variant. And one other thing, it's like the mask.
In case it wasn't clear, he flies around.
Yeah, you got it. So the mask was for him, it was like a totem, a talisman that instilled the psychosis, gave him an excuse to embody this psychosis. And at this point, he doesn't need the mask anymore. He is the psychosis. And so even when
he gets a reprieve, interestingly, he does get a reprieve from this public persona and back to his private self after he breaks the mask, after he rejects the mask. It's just that it comes back later, lurking beneath.
Right. And so what this is kind of saying is that even if the mask comes off, the mental effects, the psychological effects of that totem and what that shadow work did to people who weren't ready for it, like children in school, it's still going to linger. It's still going to pop up later on in their life. And just a really interesting detail, when Osborn is acting nice in his kind persona, they gave him veneer teeth. And when he goes crazy, they pull the veneer teeth, and he has crazy, gappy, ugly looking teeth. So even in the behind the scenes, they are still putting a veneer on for him to switch personalities.
I also think it's interesting to note that at the point that he rejects the persona and goes into the private, so to speak, is in terms of the spiritual aspect of public and private. The public is all about commerce and that world. You know, your fictional persona and your legal codes and statutes are all there to protect you in commerce and protect those who are powerful from your ability to use commerce against them. And the antidote, this is something Clint teaches really well. The antidote to commerce is, and this is one of the reasons why Christianity is so demonized, in my opinion, is charity. Charity is the antidote. Charity is how we operate in the private, right? Someone comes to your home, like Snake Jones welcoming us into his home over the weekend. He fed us, he cared for us, he made sure we had everything we needed. We were treated with honor. We were given the best of anything he had, like all the time, the whole time we were there. It was pure charity. And that is what is missing in the public. And so he goes to May's charity when he reverts to his private self. I found that very interesting.
Since we're identifying we've got all of the villains identified now, right? We have 5.
Yeah, there are 5. It's almost a Sinister Six if you count
why?
Mysterio.
Okay. Yeah. Now, before this came out, I remember thinking, oh, it'd be really cool if we had a Sinister Six movie and had like the whole real pantheon of the the original 70s Sinister Six would be really cool. And it didn't happen. I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, some of those characters are kind of lame and stuff, but I think it's a very interesting choice. They could have thrown Mysterio in there.
I mean, he is in the film. I think, and he initiates the entire thing. I think he counts as a sinister. I think you could say that it's a Sinister Six thing, but not to derail your point.
No, I think they're pointing to the 5.
The pentagram.
They're making a conscious choice of a 5.
Interesting.
Well, when the spell is contained by Doctor Strange, that spell is contained in whatever the
dodecahedron.
That's right, dodecahedron. It's the one made out of pentagons. Yes,
which is a Dungeons and Dragons like granddaddy dice. It's the largest, the biggest, has the most sided.
Martin's in the chat now. He was our other hangout friend at the Snake Jones get together. What's up, Martin? It's so good to hang out with you, dude.
So good. I got some screenshots. I got a few
radiant man, just a beautiful soul.
Yes. I got a few screen shares that I can riff on to kind of reinforce what we just said. Let's see. Yeah. So I see Doc Ock as the old model of the virus, which is these things that they have always been artist renditions. They always have been since the beginning. But he definitely has this model of the variant. You know, we're dealing with the multivirus, the multiverse.
Proteins he's injecting.
Yep, absolutely.
They look like a Hydra. And
yes.
When those little pictures of having the little tingly thing, the little flagella.
Yes.
With the flagella we're supposed to be in our bodies.
Right.
It's very much a Doc Ock thing. He's got the arms.
Yep.
Flagellating arms and very echidna. That's
very echidna-esque. Good point. So yeah, basically they've covered all bases with these villains. You know, if you believe that people are getting sick from the injection, then this one's for you. You know, if you think it's because somebody sneezed, then this one's for you. You guys seeing
Oh,
this
nice.
one?
He got his pumpkin bombs.
Yep.
It's like somebody dropping a cough in the room with
Yep.
that toxic green color.
You got it. The what are we calling it? The yuck green. The yuck green of the Ukraine. So also, I had to bring forward the fact that Oscorp is a Scorpio. He's the kiss of betrayal. You see, he even has like these. His forearms are exaggerated, and it looks like a scorpion's claws.
Yep, and he ends May's life later, not long from here.
That's
with,
right.
With a
Scorpion
stab.
was one of the original Sinister Six.
And it is a kiss of betrayal too, because she is the one that trusted him and convinced Peter that he needed to save them instead of sending them home.
Right, because he infiltrated her homeless shelter. Yep, and betrayed her in the end. Great point. So this one was pretty obvious. What do you think about that, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, they had to choose what kind of a mace? Is that what that is? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a mace.
A mace, yeah.
Sand mace.
Sand mace, yeah. And it's unfortunate. I think Flint Marko is a decent character, but I don't think they really ever fleshed out well, because I mean his whole thing was his daughter, you know,
right?
A single man, demonized, and because he had to do desperate things. You know, that's how he got into it. It's not like he was a bad guy. He was the guy that was down on his luck.
Did you guys say his name is Flint Mace?
Flint Marko.
Flint Marko.
Flint Marko. Huh. Well, it starts with the fly. Fly, NT, Mark O. Very much aerosol injection. Whisper.
And Flint is, of course, a stone type name.
Yeah.
Stone.
Nice. Interesting.
The rock.
So next, I would love to riff on this for a second, because Gordy, I don't think I would have put this all together if you hadn't turned me on to the echidna and the significance of the echidna. But up above, this building here with FEAST, that's the building that Aunt May works at, that the the Goblin infiltrates. He goes in there and acts all innocent and eventually betrays Aunt May and kills her. Well, it's an acronym. The FEAST is an acronym for Food, Emergency, and Shelter Training. Well, I took the acronym and I did my own anagram work, and I came out with FATES. And FATES is a very interesting anagram in the context of this film, as Spider-Man is messing with the fates of multiple universes by pulling people in and altering them and putting them back.
Well, what he's doing is he's saving them from their fates. His whole goal is to rescue the villains from themselves, to help them integrate their shadow, because he's Carl Jung.
Yes. And
there's even that theme of fate and destiny with Doctor Strange throughout Marvel because of his affinity to the Time Stone. We read this the other day when we were talking to each other about how in Avengers Endgame, Tony Stark and Doctor Strange are seen as antitheses to each other, but almost like reflections, rivals. They both have the black hair and the goatee. Yeah. One is saving the world through technology. One is saving the world through science. And even in the whole time travel caper, the time heist idea, Strange goes into the future and views all the possible variable timelines that could occur and comes back with the knowledge of the one that needs to happen for everyone to survive. And then Stark goes into the past to create that one timeline. So one reaches into the future to look at the fate of things, and the other takes his destiny into his own hands by going into the past. And this goes hand in hand with Peter being kind of or Spider-Man being kind of the new Iron Man is thematically a thing, in especially the second of these Spider-Man films.
Yes.
And that he is altering his own destiny. He's taking control of his own destiny in this film and challenging fate and the fates of these other villain characters, while Doctor Strange the whole time is trying to force him to send them all back and leave them to their fates. He says the fates of multiple universes require them to die, basically.
Yep. And just another quick point is Strange and Stark do not like each other. They are way too similar. Of course, they would not like each other. But that is very interesting because in Hollywood context, they have played the same character, Sherlock Holmes. So there is an inherent rivalry in the casting.
How did I never make that connection? That's great. Thank you.
Right. And they probably, I mean, they're basically in a Fu Manchu competition. Who's got the best beard?
Which is interesting, which is another interesting thing, because Doctor Strange originally was modeled after Vincent Price. And from the Vincent Price movie, it's The Raven. I think it's like a goofy version of, like a 60s version of The Raven. But it's dueling wizards.
Yep. And a raven is also a crow, and the name Crowley has the word crow in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the Latin word for crow is corvus, which is not that far from COVID.
Yeah, really.
Oh, great point.
Chance, could you bring that back up real quick?
Okay.
One thing I wanted to show real quick. Okay, see on the moving van, how it's painted over Forest Hills Moving Company. That's a neighborhood in New York where supposedly, I guess, I don't know.
That's where Peter Parker is supposed to have grown up in the original comics, but now he lives in this version. He lives, he's been Mandela affected into an apartment.
Yep.
Right, exactly. And I mean, food emergency and shelter training screams FEMA to me.
Yes. I think this is predictive programming or threatening the collective conscious that is our fate.
And you see that 5-star, like you just held up a starfish, dude, to the echidna again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. So this was, to me, this is the truck that they use to move around covertly through town. I see this as a starfish. The star feast is encoding a starfish, which is an echinoderm, which is related to the echidna. It is also a part of Jesuit heraldry. And this down here at the bottom, this is a Jesuit, I believe this is Alabama.
Zoom in on that?
Yeah, this is, let's see, there we go. I believe this has roots in Alabama, but you have a starfish with the spines poking out of it. You have a blue jay, which is a B to the J initiation, Boaz, Joaquin, John the Baptist, J to the B. And down here you have
there's the foxes we mentioned.
And here are the foxes sharing over a pot of probably lentils. This is probably hailing back to Esau and Jacob. But yeah, this is Jesuit heraldry. And so having that echinoderm encoded on the truck, this is the truck that Lizard Man breaks out of. He rips through this graffiti right here. He breaks out of it and makes an escape. Well, he's Lizard Man. He is a viper, a he-viper. He's a he-viper. He's an echidna. And I talked to a friend of mine, big up if you're watching out there. He translated this graffiti for me, and he thinks it means poetry. And that it is a legitimate graffiti artist in reality. And he brought some examples that are pretty convincing.
You're going to have to weave the whole sync that came out from that because it's pretty funny.
Yeah,
We're kind of ahead of ourselves. There's a little bit in the past of the plot to catch up to, but it's okay. But here's another screenshot of that feast truck that he breaks out of. And tell us about your friend who's a graffiti artist who you sent this to and why this blew his mind, just because I think it's funny. It means we're onto something.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And so I'm not going to drop his name because I don't have permission. I don't know if he would care if I would or not, but he is a very synchronous individual. Like, it's amazing how so many things that in his life line up with my life. And so I just dropped him a screen cap and said, I know you're a graffiti. I mean, he's amazing. He's amazing. I've seen his work. And I asked him, what do you think this means? Can you translate this graffiti for me? And he was probably taken quite aback because he has a love interest in his life who is about to go through a move, and she is moving out of Forest Hills. Wow. So she needs a moving van, a moving truck, and this one that I sent to him has Forest Hills written on it. And it probably blew his mind in a major way because he got onto my work through my echidna research and my breaking down the myth of Perseus, as he has taken off the head of Medusa, who is the she-viper. And so I just had to, reach out to him, which is, the synchronicities of it go even further than that, but I don't want to give too much up on my boy. Yeah, you know who you are. But it was really something that I sent him that picture, and he's like, dude, that's hitting real close to home. So that's pretty magical.
Okay, so we're going to back up a little bit in the plot and talk about, we're going to really get into something we left on the table so far. Oh man, this is one of the more despicable aspects of the programming and social engineering in this movie. But everyone probably is familiar with J. Jonah Jameson. And oddly enough, in this universe, it's the same actor. How did that happen? It's the same Jameson as in Tobey Maguire's universe. So he's now, basically he's Bale Hixos, Alex Jonestown, and he's a conspiracy theorist, and he is selling his pharmakia wares, just like Alex Jones, energy. He's selling you on supplements, and he's basically the conspiracy theorist that you're supposed to hate because he's telling lies about your heroes, right? And but Gabe, you also pointed out nicely that this kind of reminds us of the spiky ball behind him. And of course, don't forget this green coloring. Of course, we've discussed that in depth already. And the Daily Bugle, even to connect it to Alex Jones. The Daily Bugle has a trumpet here. And what was it that Alex Jones was publicly, ostracized from Facebook and places for? Was it because of his support for trumpets? Trump Pence?
Trump Pence.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
A lot to say about this guy, but man, I hate how they do conspiracy theorists in these movies. It's across so many Disney movies, or Marvel movies.
Yes.
Right now.
And the change that they made to Jay Jonah's character, not only just being this, but they took his hair. Like one of Jay Jonah's defining
oh my God.
They scalped him.
They scalped him. Yeah.
He got tonsured. In the Merovingian tradition, they tonsure the hair so he could never wear the crown.
A Hitler stash too. It's kind of a Hitler stash now.
Yes. Great catch, Gordy.
Well, he had a Hitler stash before, kind of. Pretty much.
But he lost his hair. He lost his potency.
No,
they also removed any characterization other than a one-dimensional. You hate this guy. He's a conspiracy theorist thing. Other versions of Jameson, you would get at least that there was a redeeming quality expressed at some point. That he had a heart of gold. He just really hated Spider-Man. Right? Mm-hmm. But no, in this, he's just roasting Spider-Man all day, and he's terrible.
Well, yeah, and that's the big thing in the comic was Jay Jonah loved Peter but hated Spider-Man, and that was the whole thing. Like, well, I'll take care of you, my boy. Come on, I'll pay you. It was the whole thing about.
Well, he was
always
stingy
got
about it,
paid.
but he
was
would pay
stingy,
him.
but he always got paid. But he always cared. Like in the end, he cared about Peter as a kid.
Yes.
kind of a hard dad kind of character.
Right.
Okay, so we were talking foxes, and we've mentioned that in this film the word fix is really important. They're trying to fix
the daily
villains.
fix.
They're trying to fix the viral vectors that are the villains, right? And his show is called The Daily Fix. Yeah. Again, also insinuating that conspiracy culture people are addicted to this kind of what they're portraying as misinformation.
Right.
It's also a drug thing.
Yes. Brought to you by Pharma. By
need their fix.
Pfizer. Yes. Pharmaganda. It's Pharmaganda for sure.
Yep.
This movie is basically Pharmageddon.
It is Pharmageddon.
I'd like to take this. Maybe I should take this point to. No, I'll save it. I have a huge weave to slam dunk all this at the end about what I really am talking about with multivirus. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
I gotta put forward the fact that Jameson's voice sounds like Bill Hicsos, aka Al Lookalikes Jonestown. It sounds the same. They got the same voice even, and that goes way back. That goes to the cartoons.
Yeah, they're
Turning the Frogs gay.
It predates Jones.
I've got the documents.
So it's almost like Bill Hicsos, Al Lookalikes Jonestown and Jonestown was scripted to fulfill the character of Jameson. If we're going to go chicken or egg, if we have to do chicken or egg, Jameson predates Hicsos. Just a thought.
Okay, so here we go. Here's the do it Deus Ex Machina moment.
All right,
So who wants to explain what this cube is?
Hit us up, Gordy.
Well, I don't remember the word that he used to call it, but it's
Gabe's
the
got
container.
that.
Do you remember what it's called?
Machina dichotomous.
Dichotomous, right? Okay, so it's the cage that contains the spell itself. So he's contained taken the spell or what's fucked up with it supposedly, and it's supposedly being housed in this kind of Dybbuk-y feeling.
Yes. It's also a cube, and this is there's so much here going on. It is a cube, and recently I made a kind of, I'm not sure what I'm seeing, but I made what seems like a very significant realization. Alan Marcus kind of wove this with me recently, but I've discovered that almost all, with only one exception, all of the boundaries, all of the dividing lines of the states of America are shaped either as a Y shape or a T shape. And that is exactly the limitations. Those are the dimensional specific dimensions of every which way you can look at a cube. No matter which way you turn the cube, you will either see the shape of a T if you're looking at it head on, or if you give it if you look at the canted cube, the canted square, it has a Y shape to it. So T's and Y's all across the United States, on all of our state boundaries and borders, are telling me that they worship the cube in a very creepy way, and they have been for a very long time. And the only location that is an exception to that rule is the Four Corners, which is very much a Templar cross to me. And there's a lot of mystical toponymy and mystical significance of the Four Corners, and having them all as the sole exception to the rule for what I believe is cube worship. It's indicating to me cube worship.
I don't know if worship is the right word.
Uh-huh.
In the sense, cube symbolism is definitely there. Worship
Nice.
is such a weird word, right?
Yeah. Yep. So now I put this up, that concept up against the name of this device, It's the machine that divides. It's the dividing machine. And me seeing all of the states as divided up into T's and yods, Y's and T's, YouTube, thank you, YT. It's very interesting to me, very interesting. But yeah, having the name of this machina dichotomous translate to dividing machine is interesting. But also I got to point out, machina has the word China in it. And everybody knows China is the source of all the scariants. It all has to be a big red scare at the end, right? It's got to be China's fault. So yeah, the Deus Ex Machina of the whole movie has the word China encoded into it, but also dividing machine, which lends to the multiverse theme that we're weaving here.
I've got something on this too that just came to mind. The cube is also book in reverse, right? Phonetically. And this is the fate character who wants to send these characters, the villains, back into their fate, right? So here he is with the cube, or the book of life, if you will. That if you know, these are villains, so their name is not written in the book of life. So when he activates it, he's going to send them to their fate, right? Their karma, if you will. And alongside of this cube in this shot, we have the Eye of Agamotto, which is where the time stone was held. This is very much an all-seeing eye type of symbol. And even the name Agamotto or Agamotto, to get us back to this idea of, you know, Jung and Philemon, right? The daimon. This is something that we've been talking about for days now.
Yeah, man.
And there's probably a lot that we've missed and things we could reference with the daimon and dissociative identity disorder, whatever. Well, another name for the sun, for the soul invictus, for the, in my opinion, the original dissociative identity disorder brought to us by priestcraft sorcery like Jesuits, which is that all these mythological archetypes that we attribute to pantheons of gods, they can all be traced back to solar symbolism. Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter, you name it. They could all be the sun, even the goddesses, if you trace the etymology back farther enough or far enough. And one of the names for the Sol Invictus is the good daimon, which is in Greek, agathodaimon. Agathodaimon. Agamotto, agathodaimon. To me, there's like this feels like a relevant connection, because there's this all-seeing eye. It's looking at the cube. It's the book of life that the villains are not written within. And when it is activated, when it is unsealed, they will be returned to their fate.
Man, there is
excellent.
a lot.
You know, the Eye of Agamotto, the shape has always kind of made me curious, kind of like his Pluto symbology on his original costume. The Eye of Agamotto, those swoops the Eye of Agamotto, like his symbol. You know, each of the doctors or each of the sorcerer supremes have kind of a different symbol. Or each one of those containers had a different symbol, right?
Yeah.
And I've always tried to decode that. I'm always trying to think of what that is. And Chance, you're doing your energy work back there. And I've been thinking about that, and we don't see as many torsions as in this film as a lot of these Marvel films, but this kind of, you know, Wong and Doctor Strange are doing these kinds of their spells, but it's basically mudra energy work.
Yeah.
That we're moving our energy in our torsion field, and that those movements kind of like, if you follow those movements, it's kind of a what is it, brush the horse kind of qigong thing. I don't know, it just hit me as you were talking about it. Chance. So
Yeah, man. Yep.
It just hit me that we're 2 hours and 20 minutes in, and I'm on screenshot 29. We're doing pretty well, but it might be even longer than the last one. But we can't make this a trend of getting longer every time. This has got to be the upper limit. We can do this though. Okay, man, here it is again. Here's Philemon and Young together. Check this out. You guys riff on this. I'm good.
For sure. Yeah. This is that
what happens
whole
here for the
self.
people that didn't see it.
So what happens is Doctor Strange hits him, and he does the whole trick that the ancient one did to the Hulk in the earlier movie. He sets him.
It's because Spider-Man's trying to steal this cube because he's trying to resist fate, right?
Right. And what his body is doing, his higher self is keeping it away from Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is trying to grab it from him, but he's out of his body. His body is automatically doing the thing to keep it away from him. He's like, you're not supposed to be able to do this. He's like, this is so cool.
He's enjoying it.
He's connected to his daimon more than the average person, right? Exactly. You're not supposed to be able to speak with angelic beings called Philemon.
Yep.
But Young did that.
Yep, because he's got those spidey senses keeping him dialed.
Here's a secret. We all can do that.
Yeah.
What else is interesting too is the blue is removed from his suit at this point. He's wearing red and black instead of red and blue.
Yes. But his spirit self, his higher self, has the blue and no red.
You're right. Nicely weaved. That's nice. The upper chakras. That's the higher body, the higher self.
Right on. Right on. And Doctor Strange is integrated. He has them both. So it's there's a lot of integration. All these Jungian concepts are very crucial to seeing what's being put in plain sight. So when I saw this scene, I realized that Spider-Man is being initiated. He's going through all of the he's having like a
symbolic death.
Yeah, he's having that fast track montage experience where the same things that happened to Strange when he went to Comatage,
yeah.
Comertage, yeah. Doctor Strange got knocked out of his body and for Strange it was disheveling. It was too much for him to take in. But for Peter Parker, he's like, oh yeah, this is my jam. I'm totally down for this. And then and he's still thriving. His physical form is still capable of survival tactics.
It also happens in the Avengers Infinity or Endgame when the Hulk, who is the Green Man, goes back in time for the Time Stone, the Green Stone.
Oh, right. And that's integrated Hulk. That's Bruce Hulk.
He's Banner, but in the Hulk body now.
Nice. So one point I'll make on this scene is the next thing that happens after he comes back into his body, he thwips away and starts making a escape maneuver, and Strange pulls off the cape and sends the cape after Spider-Man. And in that moment, the cape catches Spider-Man and pulls him back in. Well, that is the initiation that Doctor Strange went through. So Spider-Man is definitely getting like a montage of initiation by being knocked out of his body and then having the cape pull him back to Doctor Strange in a very interesting way. And then the next thing they do is go into the mirror universe. So it's like Peter Parker is experiencing months worth of training from Comatage all in 15 or 30 minutes here of real time.
If we want to speed it up, Chance, do you have stuff about the mirror universe, or do you want to just
we're skipping through the mirror universe.
There's tons of like echidna spikes all over that whole thing,
Archimedean spirals and
all
geometry. the big G geometry.
The whole speech about, hey, I'm good at geometry. I can figure this out.
Yeah, he's good at geometry.
Yeah.
He's going through his initiation. I mean,
Mhm.
what Gabe said, you just would rewatch that part of the movie with that in mind, and you'll see. So, and this whole movie, like, that's why I wanted to throw the big themes out first, because we're only barely able to cover. I mean, the depth of detail in it is crazy, and it's 2.5 hours. So, after, maybe rewatch it if you haven't seen it yet after this, if you want, because you'll probably catch things we didn't bring up, but maybe we were thinking when we ourselves watched it. So anyway, let's go ahead, skipping forward. Now he's initiated. He's stolen the cube from Doctor Strange. He's trapped Doctor Strange in the mirror world. He's defeated the master. He's symbolically become the master of the sanctum temporarily, and he's in the wizard's dungeon. And he takes all of the villains over to the apartment where they're staying to try to fix them. Keyword. And so the first one up for fixing is Dr. Octopus. And remember, he's thematically the viral vector of injection, right? And how he is cured, or I'm sorry, fixed. We're using the word fix here. He's fixed by, and Gordy, I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say about this, a chip added to the back of his neck, and these spikes, these tines of the echidna jab into the back of his neck at the bottom base of his brainstem. So if I would hit to play on this, if it was the movie, these things would just go like joop and spike into him, injecting, needles. It's just like I think we're right on with the theme, because the other villains have their symbolic representation of the different viral vectors just as frequently portrayed. So there's that. And this fixes him, of course, this integrates his arms with his original psyche. His shadow is integrated in the Jungian sense. He's no longer controlled by the shadow or the unconscious, and he's a good doctor again.
It's interesting always that they choose that spot in all these fiction movies of control. That control is always right at the base of your neck, right here. And there's a reason for that. It's not an accident that the movies are reflecting the real stuff that they actually have, and they do, which they're starting to admit here very, very quickly.
I gotta say something cool from the comments too. Earlier, Joshua on the YouTube side was talking about the cable toe, which when the priest would go into the Holy of Holies, they'd have a rope tied around him so that if he was struck dead by the glory of Jehovah, they could drag him out. And Wayne on the other side pointed out that the cape is the cable toe. And they didn't see each other making those comments. So great job. Both sides of the Rockfin and the YouTube chatter.
Wow.
Thank you both. That's awesome.
Been trying to keep up with reading it. You guys are on it.
Wow. So yeah, Gordy, I saw you posted an article that they're soft revealing the brain chip technology. They're trying to sell it as a good thing.
They're selling it as a cure for depression. I can tell you with 100% certainty that is not what it does. That is not what it does. It is for control. It is not a piece of machinery in your body is not there to help you. It is there to control you.
Yep.
100%.
Cybernetics.
You will start seeing it more and more and more. I mean, the whole Elon Musk's bullshit, which, by the way, is okay. Maybe that's for another time and a lot longer weave.
Go back and watch my episode with Wayne McCroy from last year if you want to find out cybernetics, what it really is all about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, let's just leave it at that for now. But that's an entry point that they use. That is used all the time.
And just for perspective, Doc Ock was vax hesitant, and they forced this chip onto him. He did not want it.
He didn't want it.
They had to incapacitate him.
Right. They had to incapacitate him, but he's the one that convinced the other ones.
And then, yes,
Oh, after he got it, he's the
After
one
he
that
got it.
convinced the other ones they wanted to do it too. You're right.
That's right.
yes. And it will come up later that the doc becomes a solution. That we'll get to that at the closing scene, but the doctor, he goes on infiltration mode and starts convincing all the others. That's a great point. He's singing a different song now that he's got the
He's
chip.
congratulating the other ones.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens at the last is he's like, well, maybe I'm getting ahead. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. What happens is, I mean, we're jumping around. We're doing a really good job, honestly, going in relative order.
Yeah.
But yeah, then the others are getting their scientism cures. We can, as Wayne pointed out, quote, we can fix the creator's mistakes. You know, that's kind of the theme here with the word fix. And okay, so they all get their various fixes, and it's really important to point out how stupid it is in terms of logic. Like they're in an apartment and they come up with like a serum to cure the goblin. So they're doing biochemical synthesis. They come up with a chip to cure Dr. Octopus. They come up with some kind of power siphoning harness to put on Electro, and it goes on. You know, green gas is what they use or they want to use on the lizard, or the lizard is downstairs in the echidna cave, right? Separated from everyone else. And who's the fifth one in this equation that I'm missing?
Sandman?
Sandman. Oh, yeah. They end up fixing him with some kind of like weird flashy light stick. Not as well developed as a thing, but it's all stupid. Like later in the movie, when these cures don't work or they don't get to finish them all, and the three Spider-Men get together, they actually make the cures or the fixes, these amazing technological things, in a university science laboratory, just with beakers and test tubes. Somehow they come up with all these things, and it's so stupid.
Yes.
The miracle of science.
And I'll point out that is the point in the movie, in the film, where I started to see the yellow and blue just start flashing every other scene. From that point on, the yellow and blue is like consistently thrown into the mix. Like, okay, we put on our science goggles and putzed around with whatever scientific elements, and now go Ukraine.
Well, you know, one thing I don't know if we pointed out is that all that magic technology came from Tony's cube that he left. That cube unfolded, and he had all these tools, and he's just this magic machine that just solves their problems.
It was like a 3D printer.
3D printed AI thing that just comes up with technology.
Chemicals and all.
Yeah.
And it's all about that nanotech.
Yeah. And
right.
The thing at the end with Doc and because they're all convincing each other about taking it, and that's when Electro takes off his thing and decides, I'm not, you're not going to change me, kind of thing. And that's when Doc tells, I can't remember Goblin's first name. Osborn. Yeah, so he tells him, he's like, what's it feel like? You're going to be you again. You're going to be just you. And that's when he's like, oh, right. Fuck that. Yeah. I'm not going to be me ever again.
Well, I think he says like
the power. He talks about the power.
Yeah. Yep. It's so profoundly psychological. This is probably one of the most psychological films. At least I should maybe specify blatantly psychological. It's profound. Yeah.
So we covered that off, and now the Goblin, or Osborn, his shadow, takes over, and he transforms into the mask again, but just without wearing one. And all the villains escape, and Spider-Man gets in a fight with the Goblin, gets the crap kicked out of him. And then here comes the airborne variant, where the glider comes out of nowhere. You weren't expecting it and hits Aunt May, which is pre-echoed in the movie with her blue dress and red sash around her waist, which is earlier before the kiss of betrayal when they're in the shelter or a charity place. She's wearing that outfit, pre-echoing, foreshadowing that he's going to betray her and she's going to have a wound around her midsection like that.
Yep.
But here's what we realized when we were talking about this scene is the aerial variant, if you will, is said to be like responsible for killing people's their loved ones, their aunts, their uncles, their
elders,
grandparents, the elders. And she's not that old in this movie, although I think Marissa Tomei, who plays Aunt May, is actually way older than she looks. And in fact, that's part of this film, big time. Most of the actors that came from other movies and reprised their roles, except Jameson, who they made look like shit, they all are probably CGI'd out and made makeup to make them look way younger than they currently are to try to fit into the plot better. But this is it. This is where the airborne variant takes out your grandma because she was cowpoke hesitant. She, she was not going to accept the fate of the multivirus or whatever.
Right. And we mentioned this already, but it's that kiss of betrayal from the Scorpio. Oscorp Scorpio betrays her in the worst way because he infiltrated her generosity, her public service where she worked, and got close to her to get close to Peter, and then used her to hurt Peter. So yeah, definitely Scorpio, Oscorp all the way. Yeah, that was a tearjerker.
And also at this point, this is where she really reinforces what I call the messiah, right? Which is Spider-Man's kind of downfall in a sense that he's really programmed with this, we must sacrifice ourselves for the greater good, type of mentality idea. It's really the superhero trope. And in fact, I've seen it everywhere. Billboards that are like, you're the superheroes, and showing the nurses and doctors on the billboard, or you're the superhero for getting the cowpoke, or you're a superhero for wearing the mask. Heroes wear masks. Last I checked, bandits wear masks too. But in her dying moment, this is his Uncle Ben, because Uncle Ben doesn't exist. So we kind of gender flip that. She is instilling in him the reinforcement that she was right. Even though this got her killed, she's still like, no, this is the right thing to do. We must do this. And I just find that really interesting because the whole argument behind so many, like the sort of the inverted pop culture version of mainstream religions like Christianity, I call it inverted in the sense that what people focus on about Christ's story is his death on the cross. They focus on that, like what makes him the ultimate hero for humanity is that he let the collective kill him, so this kind of gets into this multivirus thing as I am seeing it, in the sense that the multivirus represents the split personality of Source in all of us becoming homogenized and collectivized. The multivirus in the sense of your shadow being eliminated. You've been fixed, right? You're no longer as the creator made you, yin and yang, light and dark. You've been made like everybody else, unable to think for yourself, NPC'd, whatever you want to call it. And this comes about through the messiah, as I call it, that we need an external savior, that our salvation is anywhere other than within ourselves, or that our connection to source, creator, Christ, whatever, is something external. It's a historical story. It's anything other than your inner connection to truth and your compass and conscience. And it's like the multivirus it's such a layered idea, but it has to do with how our morality is getting outsourced, and has been for generations and generations, thousands of years, to authority, where we make authority our truth instead of truth our authority, right? where
Nice.
instead of doing the right thing because it's the right thing, we're doing the right thing because we're being told that it's the right thing. Like we want to do it because our Aunt May told us it was the right thing, not because it's what we authentically think is the right thing. I hope all this is making sense, but there's a lot there in this multivirus. The Borg is a transhumanism, turning us into the Borg, homogenizing us, deleting the genders, becoming all one homogeneous roboticized mass.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and that's that whole taking away of your decision-making power. This is that addiction that we're addicted to giving people our power. And I know that Snake Jones will back me up on this. You can't fix anybody else. You have to fix yourself. That's why this didn't work. This is what Dr. Strange was trying to tell him. Like, you can't, but he was doing it the same way too. He was trying to fix it too. You can't fix it. You can't fix anybody else's reality for them. That person has to fix themselves. They have to go through that change themselves. They have to choose it. This is about the choices that we make. And every time we give our choices up to whatever the imbecilic masses are that are talking about an award show that nobody cared about for 10 years. Like, come on, when was the last time you watched that piece of shit? Grow up.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
they only make those theatrical Will Smith crafting your will. They only make that thing a big deal because it's the only way anyone's even going to look at that stupid award show.
They're desperate.
It's obvious sign of desperation. You know, the honor, the veneer of honor has gone out the window, and now it's just like, how can we make it as much like WCW as possible? And that also goes to the dumbing down.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So,
and people don't even see that they're being sucked into it.
Right.
Like, they're playing the WWE or whatever too. You're doing it. They're doing it.
I got a riff on this scene and bring it back to that what you're saying, Gordy. So this is the moment where she instills into Peter with great power must come great responsibility. And you're muted, brother.
I just got to say, that is an awesome theme, is why Spider-Man is my favorite. It's why I got this to remind me of that, because I see it differently, maybe, in the sense that I think our power is unlimited if we're connected to source. And that is our responsibility, is to honor that and harmonize with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this moment, she tells him that line, and that's this Spider-Man number one. It's his teachable moment. Absolutely. And then she passes away, and then assholes in uniforms, assholes wearing costumes, come to the window and start blazing the whole place full of lead. They just start shooting blindly into the building.
Yeah, he gets forcibly shot. He gets shot against his will.
He gets a forced ejection. And he runs away. He takes the passive option and he runs away. But I want to point out, the reason that those assholes in costumes decided to start filling the building full of lead is because they don't have to take responsibility for pulling that trigger. They have civil immunity. They basically have paid an insurance company to give them permission to not be responsible for the damage that they might cause. So that is the problem, that they're running around with those guns, but they're not taking responsibility for the damage they cause. They get a paid vacation if something goes wrong, and the police department will investigate themselves. But I want to bring it back to what you said about the Oscars. You know, they can depict this violence, this public display of irresponsible violence from one man onto another man, and they can reap benefits from it to up their ratings, allegedly, probably. but there's no responsibility. There's not going to be any fallout. There's not going to be any trial. There's not going to be any charges pushed because the whole thing is an insured theatrical event. It's all insured. So what I'm getting at is that insurance has removed the sense of responsibility from humanity. And I'm being very generous in my wording.
Yeah, that would be a conversation in and of itself. Really. I mean, we can't pause there. There's too much. I think we got another 14 slides left to go, but man, we'll just leave it at that. You know, we're doing awesome though, aren't we?
This is what we do.
I was just thinking I need to skip this slide because it was just a shot of something at Ned's grandma's house on the wall that I was
like, I can
look at this quick picture that they just decide to flash at us for a second. What are we looking at here before we get into the summoning of of demons is the next scene?
Yes. So Ned says in passing, nothing is in passing. Every little line is always intentional. But he says in passing to Dr. Strange when he's in the sanctum, he says, you know, my aunt tells me that the magic abilities run in our family. And sometimes I get this tingling feeling in my hands. What do you think that means? And then they just roll over that whole statement. Well, this is disclosing to us that his mother has partaken in ceremonial magics and knows the many, many valuable of these ritualistic blades. 13 of them.
Yeah, which is also cool in terms of symbolic literacy because we just went through the kiss of betrayal, Scorpio, which would lead us to the 13th sign, Ophiuchus. 13 here. Okay, so we'll move forward. It's hinted at though because he's got magical. It said that it's his magical bloodline. This is referring to magical bloodlines, actually, because Ned is able to use Doctor Strange's brass knuckles that open portals that Peter stole from him. Doctor Strange is still trapped in the mirror dimension. And what happens next is they decide they need to find Peter because he's gone AWOL after his aunt's death and they don't know where he's at. And so they open a portal. They summon the demon by knowing his name, right? They need Philemon, right? They're trying to find Philemon. So they have the magic circle. They know the name of the daimon. And out through the portal steps Andrew Garfield Spider-Man instead of Tom Holland Spider-Man. And this is where we are now experiencing the multivirus, multiple versions of the same source.
Yes.
Alternate versions of the daimon. The shadow, the light version, and the integrated version of the Spider-Man, as we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah. And MJ starts trying to command the spirit who comes through the portal. She starts giving him, instructions, and he's not listening to her. And there's a bit of a tension between who's in control here. And so she gets him to obey just a little. He jumps up and puts one hand on the ceiling. And he's like, okay, see, I'm Spider-Man. But she's not satisfied. She wants more. And there's a little bit of an argument going on. And what is really amazing and probably more meaningful than, maybe even more meaningful than the director meant it to be. Who knows? But it is Ned's mother. It's the elder who starts to give the instructions that will compel the spider spirit to engage with the spider web in the corner of the room. And it is the spider spirit who has dominion over the spider web. And so I find it very beautiful that it is the elder who tells them, if you want the spider to listen to you, you must use spider medicine in order to consummate and give your command over that spirit. And that's That's the moment that he goes over to the corner and pulls down the spider web.
Wow, isn't that kind of Hopi prophecy too? The
It's a really
spider,
good weave.
the grandma spider, or what's her name? I'll have to dig into that, but that's just ticking right
Nice.
off. Because I think there's in the comics. Oh my God, I'm gonna go so far off. I can't do this. I'll think about it and we'll talk about it another time because
All right.
that'll be another thing for me to dig into. But let's keep going because we're never gonna get through this thing.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, some of my slides aren't that important. We've kind of talked about it. Here's the integrated one. What's interesting is that he's not in costume and the Andrew Garfield is when he comes through. So he can exist in both worlds. He can switch between this person, this identity, his private self and the public self at will. Whereas, the shadow Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, he's always in the suit. And here's him as the shadow. I just felt like this was a good screenshot to depict that as he's telling his story about how his darkest trauma, where Gwen gets killed for him, they all come together and trauma bond, all three Spider-Men. They find the Tom Holland Spider-Man, the one of this movie, and they come and tell him about Uncle Ben, who he didn't have, and help him understand that this is his Uncle Ben moment, if you will. And they share sort of their deepest, shadow experiences, and that brings them together as a trinity, a thrice great.
Nice.
Three Spider-Men.
Yeah.
Doing really well. And here's where they science the shit out of it, is what they say. And somehow with these little piddly ass beakers and droppers, they create fixes for all of these miraculously powered villains. How about that? And this is where Ned finds out that he's probably going to become a villain someday and get killed also. Be a sacrificial lamb, which is probably true for Ukraine too. I bet Ukraine will be villainized before too long.
Bada boom. Yes. So one thing about this that I see is I see a lot of the Magi card here. The Magi has his implements on the table, all the ingredients he will need. And from the perspective of Peter Parker, the main Spider-Man #1, from his perspective, he also has his ingredients of his two worlds. He has the other two Spider-Mans are like his internal reflections, and his two best friends are his external reflections, his public counterparts, his public counterparts. And that will become a theme from this point forward as well, that he's has his public components, Ned and his lady friend, and then he has his private internal reflections, his two selves as well. So that's kind of neat that there's a lot of alchemy being flashed in the presence of all those beakers and gizmos and scientist gadgets. They have both forms of alchemy, the internal and the external alchemy.
So we're almost home, even though this is no way home. For a second, it was feeling like it. We were never going to get home. We're going to be talking about this forever. But Gordy, thanks for trimming the commentary. I've also held back some things as I can, but the next slide is also kind of skippable. I think we've already said all we wanted to say about Jonah Jameson. All right. I think that's good. We already mentioned the Daily Bugle being a trumpet and Alex Jonestown supporting Trump Pence and all that. And the Daily Fix, we covered that. Cool. Okay, these are skippable. All right.
Okay.
Mandela Effect
Nice.
Time. Who knows about the Statue of Liberty Mandela effects here?
Okay. First of all, I don't think in it do they even mention now you can hear in the background earlier in the movie Jonah talking about the Captain America shield on the It's just like background chatter on kind of a radio or something, like somebody's watching TV in the background. He's talking about, what, I don't think we should put a Captain America shield on the Statue of Liberty. I think it's disrespectful or something like that. But that's all you get. There's no other explanation of why it's on there. And why would it be on the arm if it's the arm of with the torch? The torch.
Awesome point.
She's holding the torch. The shield
in her
should be
right
on the
hand.
other hand.
You're
She's
so
holding the
right.
shield on the right hand. And it's not,
Gordy.
the hand isn't holding the shield. It's just on there. I mean, clearly she would be holding the book on the other side, but they're not going to do that. They're doing
it's an inversion of the public and the private.
That's right.
Yes, the sword hand is the public going out the right hand.
Yes.
The private is the shield arm is the left hand.
Where you would
so they are inverting.
Right. You should.
Great.
Okay, so for me, that's all really good. I didn't even think of any of that. So nicely done.
And that Jameson is against it because he's stoic, masculine. He wants it the way it should be, gender appropriate. He's sick and tired of turning the Statue of Liberty gay.
Right.
Well, they changed the Statue of Liberty's color, right? I'm assuming that it was destroyed in some other Marvel movie, right? That has got to be why it's being replaced. But interesting too is that it's green in our world, and green is the color of copper oxidized, and this looks like a very coppery, bronzy colored Statue of Liberty. But
nice.
What I think this also hints at is the Mandela Effect elements of this movie, because the Statue of Liberty Mandela effects are a couple that are the most convincing to me in terms of like, I know that that's not how it was before, right? So I'll go through the three that I'm aware of. There may be more. First of all, the platform that the Liberty statue stands on is a star fort. I don't remember it ever being a star fort before, but maybe I wasn't looking for that. So that one's a maybe. Okay. Statue of Liberty also is not on Ellis Island, but I grew up being taught in school that it was on Ellis Island. Now Ellis Island is somewhere else. So there's that too. Those are Mandela effects. And you guys heard of the Black Tom incident? Mm-hmm. I know you guys probably have. Okay, the Black Tom incident, I had not heard of this until Brian Stavely, who was in the chat earlier, maybe still here, brought it up in his Alpha Vedic show. The Black Tom incident is when in World War I, there was an attack on American soil, and a train yard in New Jersey, right across the pond, like right across the river from Statue of Liberty, was attacked by German submarines or something like that. I'm not 100% clear on the details. You can find out more. Black Tom incident. But this different Statue of Liberty, and it was even hinted at, like, why does Spider-Man hate national monuments? That was one of the things Jameson was saying in an earlier showing of him. I think this is super Mandela Effect-y, that now we have this Captain America Statue of Liberty going on. I mean, I can't think of the Statue of Liberty anymore without thinking Mandela Effect. And now that we're seeing one that's a different color and has all these other changes, to me, it's just screaming it. Yeah.
It also, the shield it has a CERN-esque value to it. And one of the other Mandela effects that I've heard of is that many people recall being able to go all the way up to the torch, to the ultimate, the highest point, for an even higher view. And apparently one of the many things that have changed is now public record claims that nobody has ever been able to go up there, that it is shielded off from the public. It is strictly private now. And that is all kind of symbolically indicative of what we're seeing with that shield there. And also there is a historical case that I don't think it's the Black Tom event, but it's so similar, it's kind of crazy. and that is that I believe it was a group of Israeli nationals made a plan to go up to the torch where ammunitions were stored. A large amount of ammunitions were already set up in the torch, and they had a plot to go up there and set those on fire to blow up the torch, which is really meta because the torch is already a symbol of fire, and they were going to set fire to a pre-established collection of flammables in the torch. And apparently they got caught. They got busted for doing it. And it kind of brought to light into the public. A lot of people were like, why in the hell were there ammunitions up there in the first place? And so theoretically, ever since then, they stopped letting people go up in the torch. And then they changed the record to be like, no, we never let people go in the torch, which is a Mandela effect in and of itself.
Yeah, weird one. We could go on about this facet for a while, but so just suffice to say, it's worth looking at this movie through the lens of the Mandela Effect, especially with all the multiverse stuff.
Okay, real quick, just going back to I just want to throw this in there. In the X-Men movie, there is the scene on the Statue of Liberty. It is on Liberty Island because they were talking about Liberty Island, where so all the dignitaries are on Ellis Island.
Yes.
Watching the thing. The ritual happens on Liberty Island, which is the actual island that has the Statue of Liberty.
Yes.
And what's his name puts when Magneto puts the torsion field magnet thing that turns everybody mutants.
Yes.
They're on all the dignitaries are on Ellis Island, but it happens on Liberty Island.
Holy shit. Okay, hold on, Chance.
So I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there because it's there.
It's all coming together for me now. I'm seeing it. Oh my gosh. Sol Invictus was the Nicene Creeds editing history, rewriting the Great Reset. And SOL, that's Statue of Liberty. It is a Sol Invictus icon, the unconquerable sun. And the Statue of Liberty is a man. And they rewrite the facts and they tell everybody a bunch of fiction that that's a woman. But Sol Invictus is a cult it ties into the Mithra cult of men who chop off their junk for a pound of flesh to be initiated. And now they can pretend to be women and be in the priestess class, eunuchs, for sure. It all has to do with rewriting and cutting and editing and severing what is true, what is right and true. It's incredibly apropos that this culminates on the Statue of Liberty, because it's a symbol of Sol Invictus and the Nicene Creeds and the Great Reset that happened before, and now they're going to rewrite history again.
Yeah, we're watching it happen, man.
Yes, and also I'll just say it wouldn't be Slick Dissident if I didn't bring up that the shield is the placenta.
Somebody got bingo somewhere. Somewhere in the universe, somebody got bingo.
Always comes back to the placenta.
Bingo. Shield is a lot of symbols, really.
Yeah, man.
Definitely the placenta. Okay, so I guess we'll move forward here. We got
nice.
The final battle royale. It's a big scene. The three Spideys working together. A lot of humor as they interact with each other, all that, yada, yada. But relevant moment here is that Doc Ock comes back and saves the day. He's the only one that's fixed. The others are still in their shadow personas or whatever. And he comes back and we get rescued by the doctor. The good doctor, right? Doctors are good. Anything to say about this? I feel like I'm missing something. I feel like there's more to it than that.
Yeah, it is. It kind of feels like a double switch, triple switch inversion going on, doesn't it?
Yeah, double reverse. That's Crow would call it.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the doctor coming in and saying, "Oh, you're doing great, kid," you know, like kind of thing. That's
Well, he administers their fixes too, and
right.
right. So like, what are fixes? Their injections. Was that my cat screaming? That's so good. I'm glad that you're here, buddy.
Yeah, that is really something that he was the hesitant one. He didn't want to get fixed. They forced a chip onto him, and then he becomes the Deus Ex Machina, the device plot twist that we all were waiting for to come and solve everything, because he succumbed to his forced injection. And so it is a double, maybe triple reverse that that the doctor and his technology comes to save the day, to be the ally, the unexpected ally at the end. Just very interesting how flim-flammy the whole thing is throughout with him, with that character.
Now, another Jungian thing is that the Garfield Spider-Man saves MJ from falling.
Yeah.
And his trauma, and actually, Gordy, I'll just go all the way back to the comics, because in the Amazing Spider-Man movies that he's in, his girlfriend, love interest, Gwen Stacy, gets killed by being thrown off of something, and he tries to save her, and he doesn't. And actually, in the comics, in comics in general, the world of comics, the delineation marker between the golden age of comics and the silver age is the moment where Spider-Man fails to save Gwen Stacy from the Green Goblin throwing her off a bridge. He tries to catch her with his web, and he stops her too fast in midair, and it snaps her neck. So he actually is responsible for her death. And it's like the second Uncle Ben moment for Spider-Man, but he gets really dark after that for a long, and it becomes the silver age of comics. That was like the threshold, crossing the silver gate, right? So this is his moment to, in a synchronicity way, which is what Jung is all about. He experiences the exact conditions of, the manifestation of his inner shadow, his chance to repair his relationship with the animus, or if you will, right? Or the anima is the female one. And so he saves her from falling, and he also has his shadow integration moment in a Jungian sense right here.
Yeah, he's emotional. He's got his redemption, not without even realizing it, like until it happens. He doesn't know it until it happens, but that's his Gwen. When in the people know about Gwen and Peter, right? So just to throw in, the Peter and Gwen now is this. That's Peter. And that's Gwen. So you all
show them
know,
again, buddy. I'll make you big. Your owls.
Peter. This is Peter. This is just from today, I think. Peter.
Yes.
And Gwen.
With her babies.
She's covering them up today because they're it's cold out there now. We got a rainstorm, but
nice.
Peter being the rock and Gwen being the chalice is another weave for another time. But
yeah, right.
Yeah, man, we're taking back the mythologies and reinventing them, man. We're doing it. And we're doing it in real time. This is magic.
The cat is really screaming. What's up,
That's
Tookie?
awesome.
You come up here.
Yeah, buddy. You scream it.
He's like, this is not supposed to take more than 3 hours.
I said half hour.
So I just want to do a quick riff on that, what he experienced, the recreating of our trauma. A lot of people call this Saturn returns. There's a lot of ways to see this, but we will recreate our trauma. It is human nature to do so. Mm-hmm. And there are some very amazing and magical things that we can use that dynamic to our advantage. And that was kind of something that we used to do when I was a Bullet Man trainer. when I would put on the suit and basically mug people so that they could, you know, fight for their life verbally and physically. But it gives people a chance to rewire themselves and their response, what their natural response was. It gives them a chance to, you know, face the situation all over again and re-experience it, victorious outcome. And that's something that I recommend for people. You know, I totally recommend if anybody's sitting on something that they think they could, you know, reenact, get adrenalized for that teachable moment, and rewire themselves on a deep and meaningful way. That's a hero's journey I highly recommend. There are lots of bullet trainers out there still to this day doing the good work. And that is where the hero's costume belongs. That's a very good use of costume magic.
I love it, man. And really, shamanic healing as a thing is all about recognizing that you are going to recreate your trauma in the external world, and it's going to come to you in the form of situations, and especially people who mirror exactly what your inner situation is. So any authentic path of with the sense of service to others, you know, if you want to be a healer, you're not going to succeed if you're in this ego place of I'm going to fix you, which is what this big theme of the movie is. You succeed by healing the trauma within yourself, by correcting the emotional energetic imbalance in yourself, and then that sets the example for the outer world, whatever reflection of it is coming at you that mirrors your trauma, to also do the same. There is no healing other people. You heal yourself, and if you do that, then you get to be part of the process for other people to do that for themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's the trick. You hit it on the head. You know this because you do it. That you're not, when you're doing energy healing, you're not doing it. You're doing nothing. They're doing it. Their body is the one that heals itself. We're being a vessel for something, but it's not, you're not doing it. It's that person is healing themselves. You're allowing it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Beautiful.
Okay. So here's the moment where a lot of trauma going on because we have Tobey Maguire Spider-Man stopping Tom Holland Spider-Man from killing the Goblin with his own glider. So this is recreating the trauma of Tobey Maguire watching Norman Osborn get killed by his own glider in his storyline. And also Tom Holland is reliving the trauma of his Aunt May getting killed just, hours before, I guess, when Goblin, kiss of betrayal stabs Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in the back while he's being saved. His life is being saved by him. But he doesn't go to the full dark side. Tom Holland doesn't. He is stopped by this gesture and realizes that he wants to fix everybody. But he does the fixing by healing his own inner turmoil. So in that sense, it's still Jungian. And he's, cured by injection. Fixed you with that injection there. Nice one. Ugh. That's a
and then
creepy
his
face.
memory is washed again. What did I do?
Oh, yeah, the dissociative identity thing comes back into play.
Right. No responsibility.
It's not an integration either. They don't integrate the shadow with the conscious mind. It just wipes the shadow out, which is exactly what Jung actually warns against.
Yep. DID, dissociative identity disorder. It's also DAD, the deed, who did the deed to become dead. It's very interesting how these acronyms rhyme with the sacrificial patriarch.
Yeah, and if you came in late, then we did get into a lot of good stuff on the DID, dissociative identity disorder, earlier in the stream. I feel like this whole conversation was us just laying down symbolism as we went through the plot, but that if you actually watch the movie, almost every major theme that we're talking about applies to the whole movie, not just the part of the movie we got to when we brought it up.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, so we're cruising. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're doing really well. think we got like 2 slides left. And then, however, we're going to wrap it up. But the final thing that happens is Peter returns to the private. So this is like the multiverse cracking open, the dome, as I alluded to. This is maybe not the best screenshot of that, but you literally see the firmament open up and this purple crown 488 energy comes through.
Nice.
But he goes back to the private in the sense that the whole world is now brainwashed to forget who he is. So brainwashing good. There's the final message here.
Yep. This is the Nicene Creed. This is the Great Reset. All taking part on that iconographic symbol of the Statue of Liberty that is very echidnographic, in my opinion, with that crown of thorns.
And one of the first major examples in movie comics of a massive retcon, right? A retroactive continuity shift or change. In actual comics, this is commonplace to retcon something massively like an identity or a character's death. They come back to life, all of that. So, I mean, in that sense, comics are just like soap operas for mostly marketed to boys. Other girls read comics too. But that's this is a big retcon, and that I love that you said it's the Great Reset, because it absolutely symbolically is. The Great Reset idea is a retcon, just like Mandela Effects is a retcon of history.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The magic spell is even. It's even like the lighting of the runes is even brighter in that second time around. It doesn't have 5 different edits to it. It's like uniform. And this time it works because he doesn't have to make all those exceptions to the spell.
It was interesting that they added the little detail too, that when the dome is cracking open, that people are looking through, that there are people on the other side, almost like spirits waiting to come.
And they have the shapes of his rogues gallery from the comics. Like there's you can see the scorpion. There's one that looks like Kraven the Hunter.
Right.
Yeah, it's like and in a Jungian sense, I'm now just realizing that this multiverse cracking open is like the archetypal realm bursting out of the unconscious into the conscious, which is what Jungian integrative psychology is all about. Not that they burst into it and cause chaos and havoc, although he would suggest that they do in the form of synchronicities that the archetypes bring into our lives. In the conversation we have with our inner zodiac, our inner zoo, the different animalistic characters of Spider-Man's villain history are a great example of that. They're mostly themed as elemental beings or animals, almost all of Spider-Man's villains. So you've also got the xenoglossolalia here, or maybe these are sigils, these different hyper sigils that are part of this higher realm, right?
Yes. And another thought that's just kind of coming to me as we riff on this is the idea of viruses and influenza. I know Joshua will dig on this. The definition of influenza is how the stars influence us down in the mundane realm, in the worldly. And these runes look a lot like a zodiac, the signs of the zodiac, albeit a much more complicated, maybe 36. The minor decans are encompassing him there. But staying on theme with the multivirus, those characters in the heavens are like constellations. And their relationship to the mundane world has influence. This is the origin of influenza. Yes, like actors try to do. Great point. Yes.
Nice.
And there are people out there, just to cover all the bases, there are people who still adhere to what might be accused of being an archaic concept that germs or whatever makes us sick comes from outside of the firmament or falls in from outer space, whichever paradigm you adhere to.
Bro, did you know what my next slide was going to be?
Oh shit! No.
This is May Parker, and I was going to bring up the Parker probe.
The Parker probe.
Weave that together for me, please. So I don't have to talk.
All right, absolutely. So one of Doc Ock's reoccurring lines is the power of the sun within my own hands, right? And NASA is trying to convince us that the Parker probe went out and touched the sun. And this is very more profound than I knew until I came here and started rating Chance's Spider-Man original series stash. And I found out in the Superior Spider-Man series that Doc Ock overtakes Peter Parker's body.
Let me just lay that out real quick. Superior Spider-Man is a series they kicked off after issue 700 of Amazing Spider-Man, where Dr. Octopus does a Freaky Friday body swap and switches his consciousness with Spider-Man's body, and Doc Ock's body is all decrepit and beat to shit because Spider-Man's kicked his ass 100 times and he's about to die. He's on his last ropes, and that's why he decides to do this body swap scheme. And so Octavius becomes the new Spider-Man. I'm sure you have more to say about that, but it's a temporary thing. It gets retconned later, of course, but it's really wild 30 issues.
Yes. So to have Doc Ock say the power of the sun within my own hands a couple of times, and for him to have ultimately become integrated strangely by infiltrating Peter Parker's body, and then NASA tells us that the Parker probe reached out and touched the sun, is kind of indicating that that's one big club and we're not in it. They are fire worshipers, this fire worshiping club, and we're not in it. But yeah, it's there's a lot of consistency in those arcs of fiction.
Yeah, Gordy, you got a little bit of background noise on your end, so
do I? I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've been muting you when you're not talking. I just wanted to give you the heads up so that you can be in control when you talk and all that. But okay, so the Parker probe, the influenza, the microbes from space concept, which is all so interesting. Okay, because what follows from there, I feel like we weave this really well. First of all, we've got after credits scene, we see Eddie Brock, who is Venom, who is from another universe, not the mainstream Marvel cinematic, because it's a Sony film. His Venom movies, I never saw them. Hey, wait, is this yellow and blue? What? Okay, so this is him in Mexico getting drunk and finding out about the multiverse thing. And it's kind of makes no sense because the spell that brought the rogues to this universe was people who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man got brought. But there is no Spider-Man in this Venom's universe, even though Venom is technically a Spider-Man character. They just did a separate offshoot Venom movie series, and they decided he's going to be, I guess, a part of the MCU somehow. So he shows up. He's in Mexico getting drunk. We've got aliens, because Venom is an alien symbiote. Aliens at the border. Right? And so this is the influenza right here, the symbiote, the black goo that comes from space. And that's how the film basically ends after the credits scene. And that definitely connects to everything we just weaved with the Parker probe and the influenza, the influence from the stars, which is the multivirus, because that's the archetypes, the influenza, influence from the stars, the zodiac, the zoo, the 12 divisions, right? The machina dichotomus, the division machine, all of that puts it back in. Strange puts it all back in its place. What is meant to be in the unconscious realm, the archetypal realm gets put back. The multiverse is repaired. The multivirus is fixed, whatever you want to say. And yeah, that's there's so much we could say probably additionally about all that. Yep. Like I'm really interested in the idea of the multivirus being like some way connected to this sort of dream of reality that the creator God or supreme being is engaged in to divide the one supreme being, ultimate source of creation and nature, the clear light, into the prism, the refraction, the 7 colors, you know, and then the further steps down into division from there, they give you the archetypal 12 and then other archetypal numbers all the way to the billions of conscious beings that are still just vessels, not just vessels in sense of like less in some way, but we are vessels of that one unified life force energy or spirit, right? So that's the multivirus, in my opinion, is almost like the transhuman attempt to undo the multiplicity of life, to fix God's mistake is what they look at it as, to make us all the same and controllable from a centralized source where they can be the God of their imagination, where they can harness the power of an artificial demiurge, like the artificer of the cosmos they believe in, right? The Vulcan.
Yep.
There's so many ideas in this that I have trouble conveying it in a concise way, but it just connects to so much that we've talked about on our shows, Weaving Spiders and InnerVerse, forever.
Yes.
And it's deep. It's a deep question, you know.
It is. I want to touch on what you said first, but will you keep that picture up just because to remind me to circle back to that symbiote thing? So, if the right brain is the symbolic brain, the brain that can read the symbols and can pick out 1,000 words in a single image, that is considered the feminine aspect, and they are using art. They're using imagery to communicate these this mind control, these things that are not obtuse. They're not being outright or forthright. They're using it as a secret avenue of communication to symbolically disclose things to us. So all of those lend to the idea of the internal and the private side. So like if you saw something that was in this film that pulled up your trauma that you related to psychologically, you may not even know that you're attaching, that you're associating with that symbol, and that they are able to speak to you through your associating to that symbol. And so that is a very nefarious form of operating in the private on a whole nother level. And that is just something to think about, because I have heard it phrased as the ultimate plan to all these mystery schools is to get your left brain to be in constant battle with your right brain, to make us fight within ourselves. And that is divide and conquer at its finest minutia. So that is something to maybe kind of riff on what you were saying there, Chance.
I like it.
That's what every drug, every medication, depression medication, SSRI, all that shit makes it so your brain doesn't talk to itself.
Right. And that's
it off.
Right. And then you called yourself
dichotomous.
Yes. Now you need fixed, whatever that fix may be, whatever your pleasure might be. You can go to the military industrial complex brought to you by Pfizer to get fixed.
And BioNTech.
Yes.
You guys see that was what the Oscars were sponsored by?
BioNTech. No, I did not.
Yeah, Pfizer and BioNTech.
Wow, they're putting the scar in Oscars for sure.
Okay.
One quick riff on the last scene there with the symbiote and Venom. I noticed a lot of that what we're calling yuck green, the Ukrainian yuck green, in that scene, in the background, in the lighting. On his shirt, he had the blue and the yellow, like you said. But that yuck green makes me think a lot about absinthe. Even
The
turpentine
green
comes from
fairy.
the pine trees, the green fairy, and those are curative uh, uh, resources, a fix, if you will, that will fight off parasites. And he was sitting at that bar drinking many cocktails, and then he stood up and he shed a droplet of the parasite. And I believe we're dealing with toxoplasmosis. When we talk about the venom, we need to remember toxoplasmosis is a parasite. It's not a virus. It's not a bacteria. It's a parasite. It controls your behavior. It gets into your mind. It alters many, many aspects of your personality, makes you subject to suggestion. But he just got done drinking. Could we say that he had some absinthe and that he shed the parasite as a result?
And this imagery of the toxo, of the X bow, the crossbow, because bow means bow is toxo in Greek.
Wow.
This comes up. I've been trying to figure out why we're seeing this crossbow, but it's the X toxo.
Nice chance. Nice. Yahtzee.
Nice, man. Yeah, word Yahtzee. That's it.
Yes. So just to weave this a little deeper on that venom thing, on the moment, yeah, I know. The cat came when you put that picture on. The cat jumped on me. I was like, "Oh my god!"
That cat has the filthy asshole.
It's okay. I got a whole bunch of absinthe at home. I'll detox when I get back. And
Martin gave us turpentine, soap, ginger candies. Thank you, Martin.
Martin's taking care of us. Yes. So in the scene where the character who plays Venom, I don't know his name, Eddie Brock. In the scene where he...
Not the actor, that's the actual name of his alter ego.
Okay. In the scene where he initiates his journey from that movie, from the Venom movie, he's gaining forbidden knowledge from his girlfriend's computer. I think he's drinking orange juice while he does it, and he's partaking of the forbidden fruit as he gets into his girlfriend's computer where he shouldn't be, and he's looking up information. And this is what it sends him on the path to become the Venom eventually. In that moment, his girlfriend's cat jumps up on the table and walks past him, and he looks at the cat and he says, "Shh." And that is him being initiated. And this goes back to the initiation ritual of kissing that cat ass, man, and getting that parasite to take over. And it's all mind control, downhill, echidna infiltration from that point on.
Yeah, man.
All right, so here at 3 hours and 33 minutes in, I would like to make our final comments. And
Nice.
I'm sure we'll be thinking more weaves about this all the time, but luckily we have our own private Telegram group for that. So my final addition to this is to go back to this idea of the multivirus and how that connects to the theme of the public and the private. And hopefully, I feel like maybe I got a little bit of stream fatigue and didn't quite articulate this in the way that maybe you and I depicted it last night when we were watching the movie. But the multivirus, getting back to this idea of dissociative identity disorder of nature, in the sense that we've all become these named individuated beings, individuation being a huge theme with Jung. I'm not saying individuality is wrong, but in the idea of public versus private, public personas require a name, specifically a surname. A surname. Sir is the rock, the Lord. It's the name that says that you're, blocked to the chain to the block, whatever, the second name. And you need these names to be controllable, like you control a demon in demonology by knowing its name. So the public side requires this separation in fiction by creating these controllable names. And there's a lot more to it than that. And this is kind of the multivirus. So in a sense, another way of looking at the multivirus is the public world of artificiality, artificial separateness, the machina dichotomous, the division machine. Whereas the private side doesn't mean acting in the private doesn't mean we are losing our individuality, but it's about being one with nature in the sense that we recognize that the spirit in my vessel is the exact spirit that's in your vessel. And we have our separateness in nature in the sense that we are individual vessels for it moving around. But like Sean would laugh if you heard me say, if you met a deer in the woods, his name isn't Jeff. It's not even deer. It's just what it is. It is what it is. I am what I am. The I am is the creator, is the source. And this dichotomy machine really makes me think of cybernetics, because for cybernetics to work, it's all about creating an artificial division in something that is a unified whole. Back to the idea of charity versus commerce. In a charitable system, you just take care of the people around you and yourself the best you can. And that's just your ethic, as opposed to needing to be paid for it, right? Now, cybernetics is where you take a feedback system like charity, for example, or like the holistic, interconnected communication network of the body, where every part of the body is talking to every other part of the body at once. Our energy fields play a role in this. And you insert an artificial stimulus into that communication network, if you will, like the body, like our society, like our previously charitable ancestors having this stimulus of commerce and of the social security number and of all these other aspects of it, right? Getting inserted in. So cybernetics is a word that is about the control of living and unliving beings and systems through inserting and through the use of feedback loops, really, a feedback loop mechanism. So the difference between a feedback loop and natural holistic communication and intelligence is that a feedback loop is controlled from a centralized source or a single stimulus, or in some way is a routing of energy or communication back around to from and back around to an origin point, right? Point of origin in the beginning. One of the biggest lies ever, that there is a beginning or that there is an end, when actually eternity or existence is eternal and it exists. There's no such thing as non-existence. So thus there's no beginning to existence and there's no end to existence. But we've been divided by this division machine of cybernetics. And it's done through the injections. It's done through the propaganda that we covered in this film. It's done through all these different mechanisms that interrupt the natural, holistic, interconnected web of the life force energy of the cosmos, able to express itself intelligently from one node to any other node, the net of Indra, into all of your news comes through this. You don't even know what's happening outside your door, like we saw in the early scene, unless it comes through the news. So the real multivirus is the illusion of separateness created by the fracturing and fragmenting of our holistic communication web of the life force that it innately expresses as in nature, where ecosystems are all in perfect balance with each other, and any change informs every other node in the ecosystem on how to adapt. Now we are in the multivirus. We have been caught in the web of cybernetics, cybernet, the net. Anyway,
Yes.
That's my slam dunk weave. I think I nailed it. I think I'm good.
I love
you
it.
guys got closing thoughts?
Very nice. Beautiful. Beautiful, friend. I appreciate you guys so much and doing this. This is fun. This is fun for
Big
me because
time.
this it's just this, every time we do these things, and you guys know this, this is what we do. Every time
Yep.
we pick up on one of these little threads and keep pulling at it and start weaving this shit together, we get a little closer to an answer. But just like infinity, like you're talking about, Chance, there's always another thing. And this
Yep.
this never stops because it's infinity. Everything's infinity. There is no end. This is the myth of the multiverse, is that people want to escape one reality and go for something else. This is the reality you fucking got. So you better work with it. So the alchemy that needs to be done, you better start doing it yourself.
Yeah,
There
man.
is no multiverse. The multiverse
no
idea is a
multiverse.
fiction. It's theoretical physics.
C3PO always had a silver leg. I know this for sure because I have a bass that has one silver tuning peg, and I named it C3PO a long time ago because C3PO had a silver leg. They changed spellings and stuff to confuse you. LucasArts changed the movies to confuse you. Live your own life. This is your reality. This is what you got to deal with right now. So,
and you know, on another note, if what we see is, this is what I'm going to get into in a future conversation, but if what things we see as the Mandela effect are actual changes in the reality, it's not the damn boogeyman doing it. It's us doing it because because this is the spirit world. This is not some concrete physical matter reality where our consciousness has no effect on it. So that's another thing that needs to be said. We brought up the Mandela effect a lot, but by no means am I saying that CERN or some other sorcerers are able to just pull the rug out from under any element of our reality at will. More likely, if any of these changes are real, or if they're not, either way, they're occurring in our consciousness, in what we're aware of. And they're kind of funny sometimes too. I think that more than likely than not, we're getting a glimpse into our power to affect future and past from this present moment, not just future. That they're actually, we're kind of collapsing that fake division. Becoming our future ancestors.
That is a weave that maybe we can put a pin in that for the weaving spiders when we've got 5 hours to prove that you can change the past.
That's my take on the Mandela effect going forward, is I want to see if we can figure out how to create so-called Mandela effects. So maybe we'll call them the spider effect instead.
There we go. There we go. Wow. Nice. So the only thing I want to close off with saying is, you know, they are the devilers, the doublers. These are the lawyers, those who are the crafters of the fictional realm, and that is their specialty. And you know, Sean would call it paralleling. You know, they take a good thing, they parallel it, and then they hijack it and re-divert the energy from it. And hopefully that was a lot of what we did today, is, you know, suss out the fact from the fiction, and also point out the fact that they are really trying to instill that dissociative identity disorder in everybody, and hoping that eventually we won't know the truth from the fiction. But we're keeping our heads on
multivirus, dissociative identity disorder. Multivirus.
Yeah. Yep. And we're keeping our head on straight. We're speaking our truth, keeping it real, telling it how it is, so to say. And that's kind of an honor to even, you know, have a chance to voice that truth and share it with a couple of wise wizards like you two, and the entire Spider crew. You know, all of us, everybody in Telegram, everybody in the chat.
InnerVerse tribe, man. InnerVerse
tribe. Yeah, InnerVerse. Yep. Yeah, man. We are. It's an honor to be a part of such a beautiful collective of wise ones. You know. Yep. You know, think about it. You know, someday some of our kids will be saying prayers, and it's going to be us they're talking about. You know, giving thanks to the elders. That's going to be us someday. So it's a kind of our truth to keep things straight, to suss out the fact from the fiction and the private from the public, and just keep these mantras alive to pass the torch.
Nice. Beautiful. Friends,
guys, we did such a good job. I just want to say,
great.
a nearly 4-hour stream, and all of us just stayed strong and clear-minded and didn't even need to go pee, unless Gordy went pee once.
I did. I did. I seen that.
I revoke the compliment.
But I came back with the kind of germ. So
okay, it's worth it then. All right, compliment restored. Okay, well we're gonna be done. Otherwise, we'll just keep going for eternity because the weaves never end. Especially when me and Gabe are hanging out in the same physical location. We're just weaving all damn day with no screens between us. It's quite wonderful. So back to the real world now, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I love that we had a solid crew watching on Rockfin and YouTube the whole time. And thank you for all the wonderful tips. I just got a nice one from our brother Martin. And man, guys, looking forward to the next Marvel Decode. Any ideas before we go what it might be? Because maybe it'll give people a chance to check it out if they want to watch it first. Anything off the top of our head we want to do? I
mean, we chat among ourselves about what we're looking at all weekend anyway. But I'm thinking the speaking of the dissociation identity disorder,
Captain Marvel.
I was thinking Moon Knight starts tonight, I think, or tomorrow.
Oh, okay. We can catch the cutting edge. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm sure it'll be really insane.
That's going to be right on target.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be a multi-weave. How can we do that in one shot? It's gotta be like 6 45-minute episodes. But we'll do it. Okay, maybe Moon Knight next. Keep in tune with us on Telegram, folks. There's links in the show notes, and we'll let you know when we decide. But probably Moon Knight. Now you know. I'm sorry for everyone that pays Disney money to watch Moon Knight, but at least we'll have a good time dissecting their shit. So, all right. Love you guys. Much love, everybody.